You came for the new Jedi Order, but really tonight we're talking about the bigger Luke theory.
Oh no, here we go. Hey everyone, welcome back to another EU-tastic episode of Empire Radio. I'm Jeremiah.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Drew.
And we are back with the New Jedi Order Part 2, but books 6 through 9.
But
However
actually,
you want to break it down.
It's the bigger Luke. We're not doing the new NJO. We're doing the bigger Luke theory.
Get it out of your system and we can get to normally scheduled programming. I don't know why you're so intrigued by this thing.
I'm not intrigued. It's freaking hilarious. It's a meme to me at this point. Just listen. Do yourself a favor and go look up the bigger Luke theory. Just do it. There's a spectrum of fan theories. We can all agree. Some are very credible. Some are it could be true, but it's not probably. And then there's an area that is like so absurd that it's laughable, and that is where the bigger Luke theory falls. So if you're interested in a crazy fan theories, and one part of the theory, so there's like the bigger Luke theory, and then there's like the dual Mark Hamill theory as a subset of that, and that's like low-key just a conspiracy theory. It's fun. I found it in an article that was randomly recommended to me, and I got a good laugh out of it. So if you're interested, just go
I'm
look that
curious
up.
on what this is now because I have never heard of it.
The short of it, no pun intended, is that throughout A New Hope, throughout the original trilogy, but specifically A New Hope, Luke's size technically changes. And what it is, it's just camera angles and lenses. But like there are people that have gone through like all 6.5 hours of footage from the original trilogy and have mapped his height versus like Han or secondary characters. And the theory is that at some point a clone Luke takes over for him. And then there's also a sub theory from that where that people think that there were two Mark Hamills
in real life.
Yeah. Anyways, it's stupid. It's so stupid. But if you want to
just wasted the first 3 minutes of the podcast on something stupid.
Well, you know what's not stupid? You know what's not stupid?
What's that?
The sponsor. No, I'm joking. I was going to say I did something. I did a thing.
Yeah.
Tanner knows about this already, but I officially purchased my first NeoPixel lightsaber.
Ooh. You did a big boy thing.
Yeah, I got a bonus from work, and we used some of it for other stuff, but there was a part of it that Makaya was like, yeah, you should do something fun. Like, you've worked hard, you should do something fun. And I was like, this is the one thing that I would never buy for myself out of like our normal budget. Like, I would never justify it. And I'd been wanting one for a long time. So I finally got a weathered Return of the Jedi Luke hilt.
Ooh.
Yeah. Weathered specifically, not shiny, but it's like sandblasted, so it looks like it's been used a little bit.
When does it come in?
Hopefully tomorrow. It's in LA right now,
dude.
So here's the crazy thing.
See it?
Here's speaking of conspiracy theories. So if you know anything about the lightsaber, I've been really getting into lightsabers, like the whole lightsaber thing recently. And like Tanner sent me this like PDF infographic of like the history of the actual props, and it's fascinating because there were 3 different versions of Luke's lightsaber in Return of the Jedi, and the only reason it was there was because they were going to reuse the Graflex hilt from A New Hope, but then Mark Hamill was like, dude, Luke lost his hand and the lightsaber, like, we can't do that. So they ended up using Alec Guinness's stunt prop from his fight with Vader. And that became, anyways, it's a whole thing. It's fascinating. And there's like the version of like the one with the gold accents. Is it the one he actually uses on Jabba's sail barge? That one's like more like black and gray, and it's more weathered. And anyways, so I've been getting into lightsabers, and I've been wanting one of these for a very, very long time. And when finally getting the money to get one, I go down this rabbit hole of like, so apparently within the last, like, I don't know, 3 to 5 years, the lightsaber market has kind of exploded. There's a tons of sellers. And there are a few like OG ones that are really good, really known for their quality. And then there are a few that are just like, I think fans are just kind of trying to get in on the action. But the one thing that you'll see really quickly, very, very quickly, is that everyone, when it comes to the replica hilts, and even some of the cheaper models, like the ones like the ones that they were selling at CCCC, ICCCCCCCC, yeah, those were like another example. But everyone seems to sell the same like 6 to 10 sabers, and so it got me thinking. I was like, what makes these different? Like some of the pictures are the same. Like some of the websites use the same, if not like slightly like doctored photos of the photos, yeah. And so I got into this rabbit hole of like realizing apparently a lot of the main suppliers get their lightsabers from 2 factories in China, and then sell them at an upcharge. And what you're paying for is like the fancy like hard case that it comes in, and the white gloves and the stand and everything. But like really, you're getting the same lightsaber as everybody else. So I'm looking at all these websites, and they're all, $20, $30 off. Some of them are more expensive, like $50 more, $70 more. And I'm like, at a certain point, I was like, there's got to be a way to just go directly to the source. And so, fun fact, I found this Reddit thread, and I didn't know this, but one of the main lightsaber manufacturers in China sells directly on AliExpress.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
And then it gets even a layer deeper. There are sellers, there's like 2 or 3 really respected, legit sellers in China that get them from the factories and sell them slightly cheaper from the factories. So I got my Luke, Return of the Jedi weathered Luke, Profi board, so it's more customizable. It's like the one that he has with his Tanner has with his Revan, so it's like super nice. It would normally cost me like between $400 and $550. I got it for $240 directly from AliExpress. So it's coming from China. Is it a gamble? Sure. Could it show up and it be like a piece of crap? Sure. But I also have found multiple Reddit threads that mention that the seller that I purchased it from specifically is like legit. The products have been really good, high quality. They've been super responsive for customer service. And so like I took the leap, and we'll see what happens. But like, I feel like I just discovered some random life hack.
Well, it makes sense though, because a lot of those sellers at cons and stuff that always have like all these like swords and stuff like that, they all get them from the same factory in China, and they all just put their own prices on them. So it makes sense.
So I'm excited because I've always, like, you guys know, it's my favorite lightsaber hilt. I've always wanted one. I saved a bunch of money by switching to AliExpress, and like, I don't know, hopefully it works out. I mean, worst case scenario, AliExpress offers free 90-day returns for your first item.
Yeah.
So like, I'll just ship it back in the box. Yeah. So anyways, we'll see what happens. But
we're excited to see it next week.
If this works, man.
You're going to start selling sabers at cons?
No. Gosh,
Empire Radio sabers?
No, but like I might, in the future, I might end up buying, I don't know, like a Kanan or something.
Empire
like
sabers, Jeremiah, huh?
Well, do you want to know what's funny? Do you want to know how I found out about this? You want to know what actually put me down the rabbit hole?
Theory sabers.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Because he started his own stupid saber company, and
I found it stupid.
Because it's a grift.
I don't know what that word means.
I mean, he's not okay. It's not a grift because it's not a scam, but like he's selling the same sabers as everyone else, but like marketing them. Like he has videos
where
it's
his own
like
label on them.
Yeah, and he has videos where he's like, "This is the most realistic Obi-Wan saber I've ever seen."
That's everyone though.
I know,
no,
and that's what's stupid about it.
It's not like, stupid. It's average. It's the same as everyone else.
So, anyways, He'll do like one custom one every once in a while that's like truly his own design, but the rest of them are like.
And you gotta keep in mind it's for fundraising purposes to fund his Vader films, so it costs multiple millions of dollars to make. Because episode 2 comes out this year, so
because he can't fund it.
What the money he's making off his YouTube, you would think that would be pretty quick. Hey, what's up, Tanner?
It's probably not as much as you think. As you know, it's hard to make money on YouTube, even if you're really big. It's not. Sometimes it's not as much as you realize. So I don't think he does. He doesn't really do like sponsorships. So everything is just what he gets. So like if it's just ad revenue, that's not as much as you would think. So,
well, I don't follow his channel at all. I just found his Saber website and I was like, oh, he's doing this.
He hates Disney just as much as you. You have more in common with him than you probably do with me when it comes to Star Wars.
No, I don't.
But your guys are here for the
bigger Luke theory.
You're here for the new Jedi Order Part 2. So let's get that PowerPoint presentation going on the Discord, and we can jump into this.
What's up? Is it showing up for y'all?
Yep.
Is it full screen this time?
Yep.
Hey, all right, y'all. Maybe next week I'll, Anyways,
okay.
I'm super excited. Anyways, all right, y'all. Time to get down to business, I guess.
To defeat the Hans.
I thought it, and I wasn't going to say it, and you just got.
I thought the same thing too.
Anyways, okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. Jeremiah, go ahead and jot this down. Boop, there we go. All right, so we have an updated galaxy map. So if you remember from last week, we had the galaxy map that had a ton of planets on it. This one doesn't have as many planets. And the reason for that is because now we have a really nice illustration of the invasion corridor that the Yuuzhan Vong are taking into the galaxy. And it's not great. They're kind of doing work. I'm not gonna lie. Like they've gained a lot of ground. So anyways, before we dive in, I just want to get everyone up to speed. I would say if you haven't listened to the last Empire Radio episode, you probably you should. You probably should. This isn't a story where missing some context is okay. Like you really need all the context. You kind of do. I did mention last week that there were 5 kind of core books that were released as hard copies. We're actually doing 2 of them today. The first one and the last one of this episode are actually 2 of the kind of core books. And I guess you technically could read those and get the full story, but man, are you going to be missing? There are going to be references going over your head every 5 seconds, huh?
Was like the first book last week, like one of the first 5 books that you should read?
Yep. So it's the first book from last week, the first and the fourth from this week, and then the very last book. Wait.
That's only 4 books.
That's only 4. You're right. The first book from last week, the first and the last book from this week, Destiny's Way, which I think we'll be doing. We'll be doing that next week. It'll be the last book of next week and then the last book of the last week. So
cool.
But for those of you who did watch and or listen to the episode, we're going to do a quick, I'm just going to read the recap from the front of the book because it's spoiler free-ish and it gets everyone caught up. They appeared without warning from beyond the edge of the galactic space, a warrior race called the Yuuzhan Vong, armed with surprise, treachery, and bizarre organic technology that proved a match, too often more than a match, for the New Republic and its allies. Even the Jedi, under the leadership of Luke Skywalker, found themselves thrown on the defensive, deprived of their greatest strength. For somehow, inexplicably, the Yuuzhan Vong seemed to be utterly devoid of the Force. The first strike caught the New Republic unawares as it struggled to deal with the rebellion sown by the Yuuzhan Vong spy Nam Anor and his agents. With the New Republic force thus occupied, the alien advanced fleet launched their first assault, which destroyed several worlds and killed countless beings. Spoilers, among them the Wookiee Chewbacca, a loyal friend and partner to Han Solo. During a brave attempt to contact and make peace with the enemy, Senator Eligos Akla was murdered by the Yuuzhan Vong commander Shidao Shai, who delivered the body to Eligos's close friend Jedi Corin Horn. Horn then challenged Shai to a duel, the prize being the planet Ithor. Horn bested Shai, but the Yuuzhan Vong destroyed Ithor nonetheless. The New Republic government unraveled a little more with each setback. Soon the Jedi Knights splintered under the strain. Chafing under what some perceived as Luke's excessive caution, a renegade group of Jedi under the leadership of Kip Duran, it advocated using every available resource to defeat the Yuuzhan Vong, including unbridled aggression, which could lead only to the dark side. The philosophical dispute drove a wedge between the Solo brothers, Jason and Anakin, while Sister Jaina focused instead on her new role as a pilot with the elite Rogue Squadron. Consumed with guilt for failing to save Chewbacca, Han Solo turned away from his family, seeking expiation in action, and foiled a Yuuzhan Vong plot to eliminate the Jedi. Han returned with what seemed to be an antidote to the debilitating illness Mara Jade Skywalker endured, but not even that victory could erase the loss of his dearest friend or mend his marriage to Leia. Leia, too, was beset with guilt. By disregarding a vision of the future, Leia feared she had condemned the Hapan fleet to ruin at Fondor. The pitched battle at the shipyards was shattered by a weapon of uncontrollable destructive power fired from Centerpoint Station, a weapon armed by her younger son, Anakin. Now, as the Yuuzhan Vong tighten their noose and press inward toward Coruscant and victory, Luke and Mara, Han and Leia and their children, as well as the New Republic itself, must find the balance they have lost before there's nothing left to lose.
Exciting.
And this is Balance Point, the first of the 4 books we're going to be talking about today. Book 6 of 19. Y'all ready?
Yep.
All right. So you're going to find until the 4th book from tonight, Star by Star, which is the thick boy. We're not going to be introducing a ton of new characters. A lot of it is the same people. But nonetheless, as usual, we have our little Pinterest New Jedi Order mood boards to kind of set the stage and to give you visuals as we go through the story. So, all right. So, in the prologue of this book, we are thrust into a space battle over the planet Kalarba. So, here's one thing that you need to know about the expanding universe. Sometimes they use planets that are like they're reoccurring, and many of them are in canon. Sometimes they'll just make up something, and like if you need a backdrop for a space battle, Kalarba. What is Kalarba? I don't know, but it's there. Anyways, long story short, Jaina's flying in a battle over Kalarba against the Yuuzhan Vong. During the process, she actually is forced to go EV. I think I mentioned this last week, but in these books, you can go extravehicular, which is what the shortened form that they use for EV. Basically, they can pressurize their X-Wing pilot flight suits and put on like a visor thing, and they can, with like a short air supply, survive outside of the cockpit of the vehicle long enough for like a shuttle or another fighter or something to come pick them up. So she's forced to go outside of her X-Wing. She loses her astromech in the process, and because of an explosion that happens near her, she's basically blinded temporarily. So unfortunately, because of that, she's forced to go on sick leave, which she hates. She's so bad at sitting. She's so bad at sitting still. But she is sent to spend time with Han and Jason, who are now on the planet Duro. It's worth noting that she's sent there because at this time, Leia cannot be reached. They can't get a hold of Leia. But she goes to the planet Duro. Duro is here in the slides. It looks like a crusty, musty boy, and that's because it's so dirty. It's so nasty. Duro is the bulk of where the story takes place. It's depicted as devastated by industry in the past, leaving the planet toxic and uninhabitable. Instead of trying to figure out how to live on the surface, the Duros live in massive orbital cities, so interesting thing about this image over here on the slide, this is kind of a render of what an orbital city from Duro would look like. And fun fact, this was a Duro orbital city mod for Battlefront 2.
Ooh.
Obviously never placed in the game, but this gives you an idea. There were I think like 20 or 30 of these cities, and they were huge. They're technically capable of sublight travel, but after some alterations, but they're also extremely slow. Their size isn't really confirmed in the books, but they seem to be super Star Destroyer-ish. So bigger than a Star Destroyer, kind of super Star Destroyer-ish in size. They're like literal cities.
But they're just on the ground with the shield over it.
No, they're orbital. They're in space.
Orbital. Okay.
Yeah. They're all in space around the planet. So like the Duros people, like they literally.
So it's like kind of like Cloud City.
Yeah, but I would say even arguably a little bit bigger than a Cloud City. But yeah, so it's funny because like they're from the planet Duro, but they don't live on this. None of them live on the surface anymore. Also, again, before I get too far into this, shout out to Naga's Shadow on Reddit and Wikipedia, both of them for contributing heavily to the structure and reminding me of things that happened. And Naga's Shadow specifically, his like reviews and summaries are so well done. So anyways, shout out to them wherever you are. It's from like 4 years ago. So thank you for doing these. Speaking of Duro, the main part of the story begins a few months removed from Agents of Chaos 2, with Han and Jason working on one of the domed temporary cities on Duro's surface. It's called Dome 32. Han has become the administrator of the settlement and is only a few kilometers from the main dome, which they call Gateway, like the main hub administrative area. Again, domes because the air quality is atrocious. We learned that amidst the refugees crisis, the New Republic is making an effort to reclaim parts of the surface by cleansing them, making settleable locations for the ever-increasing refugees. Heading this effort is Cellcore, a.k.a. the Senate Select Committee for Refugees. Han and Jason are joined by Droma, who we were introduced in the last book, who is still traveling with Han, and the resident Hutt, Rhonda Basati Diori, which is... he's on here. It's also the first time like I've ever seen like a somewhat adolescent Hutt, which was really strange to read, but he was a survival of the Battle of Fondor. He's a classic Hutt, only really looking out for himself until the absolute last minute. The Duro people pretty much hate that Leia and the refugees are there, and it's learned that Core Duro, the main shipping company in the system, is basically stealing entire shipments of supplies and selling them for a profit. So everyone's profiting off this war.
Perfect.
Early in this book, not all that different from... Anyways, early in this book, we learned that Jason is facing a bit of internal turmoil. This freaking Okay. We're going to rant about Jason some in this episode. All right.
Still?
Yes. He's so freaking... he's so annoying. Since the end of the last book, he's been warring with himself over whether stopping Anakin from firing the Centerpoint weapon was the right move or not. He's constantly thinking...
Still on that? That was like 2 books ago.
Dude, yes. He's constantly thinking himself in circles on the use of the Force and the Jedi's role in repelling the Yuuzhan Vong. To make matters more complicated, he has a vision. So he's standing on top of a swirling vortex in blackness, and he identifies the vortex as the galaxy. Luke is standing near the center, repelling an ever-increasing number of Yuuzhan Vong warriors with his lightsaber. However, as the numbers increase, the balance of the galaxy tips toward the darkness. At this moment, Luke throws his lightsaber to Jason, who misses catching it and allows it to sail over his head by accident. He's filled with anger and then fear as Luke and the Yuuzhan Vong manifest into pure embodiments of the dark and the light. He hears what he thinks is Luke's voice telling him to stand firm. He then rushes to add his weight to Luke's, holding the galaxy in balance, but it shifts more and he falls as the galaxy tips toward the growing darkness again. Luke grabs his hand, holding him steady, and he sees entire systems being darkened as the Yuuzhan Vong gain ground. He realizes the hopelessness of having merely approximately 100 Jedi and a smallish military to stop the advance. And just as a warrior leaps to attack him, he awakens. So, yeah, it just makes everything worse. Because Jason is faced with more confusion and fear, especially fear of doing the wrong things and of influencing the galaxy and the Force in a negative way, he decides to stop using the Force. He just Drew's face. He just decides, he's like, no, I'm not going to use the Force, because he's just like, He's a freaking baby. He's a big baby. That's
well, why are you like shaming this kid for having like a hard time with being in a war? Like
because of the examples he has around him.
No,
he has Luke. Like the problem is that like he doesn't really ask for help. He just kind of like sulks and like overthinks things and thinks himself in circles and stuff. And I get it. Like, I'm an overthinker. I have anxiety and depression. Like, I can relate to some of this, but at the same time, like, I'm not going to use the Force. There's a freaking war, dude. Like, I'm sorry, but like this, I don't know. The safety of your family and friends are a little bit more important than your like inner philosophy about the Force. And the stupid thing is like everyone basically except for Luke tells him to grow up and he doesn't. And Luke kind of there's a moment later in the book where he and Luke have a conversation about this, and Luke is like basically tells him like you're overthinking things and it's kind of silly, but he does it in like a really compassionate Luke way, and then leaves it up for his interpretation on what he wants to do, because Luke's like he's got to figure this out for himself. And then it takes a specific event in the end of the book, which we'll talk about, to get him to use the Force again. But like for the whole first part of the book, it's like, oh.
I don't know why. I don't feel like you should be shaming him.
I mean, he doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want to be a Jedi. He doesn't really want to be a leader. Like all he wants to do, like I'm sorry, there's multiple points where he like talks about his Jedi path being one of like being a recluse and just meditating on the Force the whole time. And I'm like, that's great, but like maybe we should do this after the galaxy is at war.
This isn't the time to.
Yeah, especially because Anakin is so dope for like he's so young, but he's basically like the young embodiment of Luke. And so like seeing those two characters side by side, I don't know, dude. I also know I have the context of this entire story and part of what happens after this series. And Jason just like he doesn't help the story mostly at all. So and you'll understand my frustration after this fourth book that we talk about tonight because of something that happens.
Okay.
Anyways, he's just, I don't know. He's just like, you have to read it. This is one of those things that you have to read. And he's just kind of like a crybaby about certain things. Whereas like, yeah, Anakin was there too. Anakin is carrying the weight of Chewbacca's death and the center point thing, but he's like still like
down
fighting and like trying to free people. I don't know. Anakin's just much more of like a Jedi in what I would believe a Jedi would be, but that's not. Anyways. Meanwhile, we learn that Leia is not only present at the Gateway Dome a few kilometers away, but actually leading the decontamination and refugee efforts. So Han and Jason have no idea she's there. She has no idea they're there. And they're like a few kilometers away from one another.
Because she's
like an ambassador.
Right, but was she trained as a Jedi though?
She was, but her Force. So like she was, and she does mention wanting to reach out to her kids with the Force, but she's been so busy that she hasn't really focused on it. So she's just kind of walking blind at this point. Leia, you'll learn in this series, bless her heart, Leia's not trained very well. Like she never really gets her training because of all of the diplomatic stuff that she has to do. And so, like, I said this last week, and I'll say it again. I love Leia to death, but I would not want her on my team if we were like taking on a Sith Lord. I'll say it that way.
Okay.
Yeah. She can like block some blaster bolts and like cut through some walls and like do some basic fighting stuff, but like that's kind of it. You know?
Okay.
So we're shown a dull meeting between her and her chief scientist, with the most prominent of them all, Aduros Decid Kriar, missing. We learn that he's been the most effective in producing the decontamination results, but he's also barely seen in public and hasn't made a meeting in a while. We also learn at this time that Leia has no idea where Han is, but longs to see him again. They've not talked since he left to help Droma find his family. We also learn that she hasn't reached out to her children via the Force in a long while. She's tired, overworked, and burdened by trying to keep those around her alive, essentially, and help them. We transition to Coruscant, where the Jedi are having a meeting. It's clear that Anakin still carries some of the weight of Chewie's death, and very much the weight of the Center Point Station incident. In some ways, he sees the loss of the Haven fleet as his fault. At the meeting, a Chandra fan Jedi, Techley, who we'll see, I have a picture of Techley later, mentions that she overheard what might be a Yuuzhan Vong infiltrator in the lower levels of Coruscant. Mara and Anakin end up capturing the infiltrator, and the warrior ends up taking its own life instead of being interrogated. It's kind of it's like a plot point, and they're like, oh, we can learn about their biology, and the thing's like, no, you're not. And then like claws at its own neck with its nails.
Wow.
Yep. Not long after, Luke and Mara learn that a Jedi apprentice has gone missing on Duro, prompting them to agree to look for her. They decide to investigate this and the core Duro shipping stuff before they leave. And so they're also in this conversation. They're kind of told, it's very strongly hinted at that something sketchy is going on. And they're like, with the shipping company, and they're like, we need to go figure that out. And then before they leave, we learn simultaneously with Luke that Mara is pregnant.
All right, Drew, we gotta guess names. What do we think that they're gonna name this kid? Because I don't remember what the kids' names were from before. Do you remember the name of their kid?
So we have never talked about his kids in an EU. We've talked about Jaina and Jason and Anakin, but we've never talked about his kid before.
Ben.
His first one.
Ben? That you guess?
Is that what you're locking in?
Yeah.
Are we gonna find out tonight, or is this gonna be book like 18? Because it's like
nope.
9
We
months
find
later.
out during the last book of tonight.
Ben.
Are you gonna lock in Ben too, or are you gonna pick something different?
Ben's a good guess.
That is a good guess. So this was made.
A reminder: there can be no Googling. I don't know what you're doing over there, Drew.
I don't believe in cheating.
Okay.
It's a real thing, Jeremiah. It happens.
I'm gonna go. Okay, so you know the boy name.
Okay,
that's true. I'm just assuming.
It's a boy. It's a boy.
Oh,
okay, I'm gonna go with Owen.
Okay.
Why is that crazy to name it after his
uncle that he could care?
I mean, just about? Like we have an Anakin. Like after all of the important people in Luke's life,
Uncle
like, Owen, dude.
What do you mean? Like he was basically his dad. Like okay, what do you mean?
All right, cool. We're locking him in.
So Owen. Take it with your reaction. It's not.
I'll give you another. I'll give you another guess.
Well, I have to go. Not, but I would have to go off names that I already would know from the original trilogy. Because
it is a name that you've already heard before.
Right, so that's why I'm saying like I can't go with a sequel or the prequel trilogy movies because those aren't relevant to Luke. So like I can't go with that.
Oh, LOL. We talked about Luke's son in the Abeloth episode. I didn't even remember that.
Look at Yaretzi, like she's like our biggest fact checker now. She's like binging this show and everything. So
that's Ron quote last week.
She's on her way to become a mod real quick.
She's 4 years away because she's not old enough to be a mod.
Okay.
So it's not Owen. Something from the original trilogy that I would have to. Ben is the best answer. So I can't, but I don't want to go with the same answer. I'm gonna go. I'm trying to think of like other male characters. Wicket. We're going with Wicket. I don't know, dude.
Sheev Skywalker.
Sheev. But we never got the name Sheev until the sequel or the prequel trilogy.
The EU is a big universe.
Unless Sheev originated in the EU and then was adapted into the
added.
He doesn't know that reference, Drew.
Oh.
At. I was thinking AT. Atted.
He said at-atten. You don't know that reference.
Oh, no.
So
Watch Skeleton Crew.
Oh, man.
It's good, bro.
An amazing show. Okay, you don't want to watch it.
It's really good. You'd like it. I think you'd like it.
All right, so
your face is knocked up. Okay, moving on.
We learned that none other than Nam Anor is posing as the scientist Kriar, who's like never at meetings. So he's infiltrated the camp as Kriar. and unleashes a group of moths that eat Synplas on Dome 32, which happens to be what the canopy of the dome is made of. This forces an evacuation of the settlement, which Han and Jason lead to Gateway, where they're forced to be in quarantine to make sure they didn't bring any of the moths with them. It's here that Leia reunites with Han, Jason, and Jaina. And fun fact, all the people that are quarantined have to have their heads shaved. And because Leia takes off her environmental suit to lovingly embrace Han again, she has her head shaved. So does Jaina and Jason. But
cute.
Yeah, it was just it doesn't
so
really.
All the Casey is bald now.
Yeah, I mean temporarily they grow their hair back, but
temporarily.
But I mean, it was, but like, it's a big deal.
Not like me when I cut my hair, I can grow it back in a month. But like,
well, I mean, they're human.
I know, but like, if a woman has long hair, like that can take like 2 years to grow back to where it was.
That's like the big reason why it meant so much, because Han was like, "No, you love your hair, like you," and she's like, "I don't care." It's part of them making up. Okay, it's been rough. It's been real rough.
I don't know anything about romance, so I don't know how to relate. Sorry.
Well, I mean, you heard what Han was doing. You heard what Han was doing on the last books. He was being a jerkwad. Yeah. Anyways, not long after, Mara arrives on the surface to connect with Leia. She and Jaina happen to uncover Nam Anor after looking to something completely different and confront him in a secret lair underground. He actually tells them that not only was he behind the whole Ramamul thing, but he was also behind her illness, which is still in remission. Ooh. He ends up dropping the ceiling on them and gets away. They're trapped, but they're fine because they're Jedi, and they end up getting out eventually. During this, Luke and Anakin are searching for the missing apprentice, which we find out it's not a huge plot point. She's killed. She's killed. She's gone.
Apprentice of who?
Another Jedi in the series. Okay. They're both minor characters, and like quite honestly, this plot point is like kind of just to get them to go to Duro. It's legit, but the Jedi does get killed. She gets killed by the Peace Brigade or whatever. So anyways, they're
killed by the Peace Brigade.
It's a running theme in these books. So they're in the capital city of Buru under the disguise as Kubas. So Kubas are, you remember the thing in A New Hope with the long snout that was like, and then the stormtrooper showed up? That's what those are. So
also in the first episode of The Mandalorian.
Oh,
remember he's like the guy that calls the taxi or whatever, the chauffeur guy.
I don't remember.
Remember when he has to like take the shuttle to his ship and then it gets eaten by the monster or whatever?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
But I don't remember.
Guy that runs that. Yeah, the whistle. Flute thing.
What? Yeah. When they capture the blue guy. What's his name?
The Mithril.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Mithril.
Yeah, that's why I said it.
Lord, I haven't seen that. I haven't thought about that in forever. But yeah, that's what they disguise themselves as. Plot twist: that thing, it's not a mask. It's a snout. They just wear glasses. They wear goggles.
Yeah, I figured that.
Anyways, so they're under disguise. Hearing Jason is on his way to the city, he figures he's going to talk with the core Duro people and decides to go there himself. So Luke and Anakin are admitted an audience with core Duro Vice Director Dugard Brarun. And while they're speaking, Jason is actually brought into the room after being made to wait. Jason tries to talk with Brarun about the missing shipments and stuff, but after asking for the negotiations to be postponed, the director decides to secretly hold him hostage and alert the Yuzan Vong. Lovely people all around. A while later, in a random public display of Jedi lightsaber forms, there was a whole thing in the town square between Luke and Anakin to distract people. They free Jason, who is still swearing off the Force, by the way, and they make it back to the surface. They're alerted that the Yuzan Vong will attack Duros, and after asking the corrupt Vicky Sesh for help, you remember Vicky from the last? She's in the slide, but you remember her from the last books? She's a senator that like basically went to the Yuzan Vong like 2 months into the war for no reason.
Oh, yep.
So she's like, no, we can't send anyone to help. They realize they're pretty much on their own. So the Yuzan Vong show up, and after destroying one of the orbital cities whose shields didn't work for some reason, They then offer somewhat of a truce. They offer to take the planet and ignore the cities. So they're like, if you'll give us the planet, we won't touch the orbital cities. The Duros take the deal and force their few defense ships to back down because they were gearing up to go to battle. And they're like, no, okay, we're going to take peace. The Peace Brigade also convinced them to disarm like idiots. So not only did they back down from the fight, the Peace Brigade freaking convinced these people in these orbital cities to just disarm. Like, no, they're gonna keep their word. These ruthless people who have been taking over the galaxy planets at a time and sacrificing thousands to their gods, you'll be fine. So, anyways, they listened to
them. If
only
they had Second Amendment rights. When the government starts taking your weapons, you know what they're gonna do, right? Kids?
Yep.
I'm just joking. Okay, calm down.
The Solos and some of the refugees prepare to flee in hidden ships, but Leia goes back to try to slow the Yuuzhan Vong down. Classic, right? Leia is captured, but Jacen and Jaina get away. This is when Leia is introduced to the recently introduced character, Savong La, who is on here in the slides. La is the War Master. So the War Master is the equivalent of like a Grand Admiral. He is like the supreme commander of all of their military and reports directly to the Supreme Overlord. Let's see. He intends to sacrifice her since she is both a leader and a Jedi. And in the process, he also tells her his plans. They're basically going to kill all the Duros, and the refugees will become slaves. Leia is able to get this info to Jaina, kind of via the Force, who is able to transmit it to orbit, and the Duros start rearming at this point. However, they also torture Leia, basically crippling her legs, knowing that she can call out physically to other Jedi, or psychically to other Jedi, So they literally torture her just so she'll call out to her children, essentially. That scene is actually like, it's pretty, like, we're going through this at like a really fast pace because there's a lot to go through, but like, it's pretty brutal. Like the dark themes of these books kind of, they very much continue here, where they're like they basically cripple her just to get her children there. So because Savong La is trying to get them all together to be sacrificed, because he believes that if he sacrifices Jedi, it's like a super sacrifice. They'll get so much more favor from the gods in their conquest if they sacrifice Jedi. So anyways, Jaina and Jacen end up going back to help Leia in the process. And in the process of getting back in, Jaina ends up calling Jacen a coward because he's still not using the Force, by the way. They split up, and Jacen goes to save Leia by himself, still without the Force. It's actually funny because Savong La ends up calling him Craven in the novel, which, if you don't know, basically means a coward. So like, no one is pulling punches with Jacen. But seeing his mom about to be killed, basically he's forced to abandon all that. He reunites with the Force. He actually creates a rather impressive Force storm inside the room they're in, and like blows all of the Yuuzhan Vong out the windows with it. And in the process, one of Savong La's legs is like permanently injured to the point where he has to get a living prosthetic grafted onto his body.
Dang.
Yeah. Which is a whole thing. That like, the more implants and the more scars you have, the higher up in the food chain you are with the Yuuzhan Vong. Like, their whole thing is self-mutilation as a form of worship. Jaina shows up right after this, and the three are able to get back to the Falcon and away with the last refugee ships. The Duros have taken the truce, which lasted about a day, to transfer as many people as possible to one of their orbital cities, which Core Duro was turning into a lifeboat. The Duro Defense Force escapes with just that one city, while the rest attempt to flee and are shot down. After the main group gets away, the Yuuzhan Vong to find a way to broadcast their living technology to all the New Republic tech. Savong La announces to the entire galaxy that if they surrender all the Jedi or kill them, especially bringing him Jacen Solo alive because now he has a vendetta, the Yuuzhan Vong invasion will halt and they will not attack Coruscant. And that's where the first book ends.
Nice.
Yeah, like I said, going pretty fast, but It was a good book. It's definitely not one of my favorites. But it was fine. It was fine. I will say the downside of this book is like the plot really doesn't start moving until like halfway through. A lot of the first sections is like really nitty gritty personal relationship stuff. Jason warring with himself. Han is kind of walking around the camp. Like nothing really progresses until about halfway through. And it's nice. It's a good window into some of these characters, but like it's not as action packed as some of the others.
Right.
So anyways, but we get Sabong La, who is like a big player for the rest of the story. So
I was just waiting for Cad Bane to show up.
Oh yeah, Duras.
Yep.
Any questions?
So your boy Jason, so is he like just in this moment he turned it on, the force on in himself, or did he turn it off again now?
No, he's back. He's back.
Okay, he's back, baby. All right.
He had a little forced temper tantrum, and then now he's back. It took his mother being crippled and almost being killed, but he's back.
That will do that.
So attachments made him better in the force, huh?
Yeah.
Wow, look at that.
I'm all for it.
You're all for a mom being tortured. So
no attachments.
Oh, okay.
All right, moving on.
Oh, Lord.
We are moving on to Book 7, Edge of Victory,
Dobby.
number 1 of 2, called Conquest.
Did you say Dobby?
Does that thing not look like Dobby in the left corner?
Okay. It looks like if Dobby and Evie had a kid together.
What if I told you that was a super powerful Jedi Master?
Dobby, he's a pretty powerful.
Did he get a sock at all in the story?
No, but he very specifically swats two massive ships away with the Force like it's nothing. So he's like really powerful. We'll talk about him.
That picture in the middle with the R2 and the planet, that is definitely like an 80s picture.
Yes. Okay. Well, there's a lot going on here. Oh, dang, Flabbit.
What?
That red circle is supposed to be around Yavin. I must have moved it in the process, and the circle didn't move with it. Anyways, it's not the point. This whole story takes place on or around Yavin.
Okay.
And I will say this is this was one of my favorites from the series.
Is that Stinky or whatever? Chewie's kid in the bottom picture?
No, that's Lobaka.
It's Lobaka. Lobaka's the son?
No, Lobaka's not. Lobaka's just another Wookiee. He's a Wookiee Jedi.
But Stinky was the name of his kid? What was
the name of his kid? Lumpy.
That's what, that looks exactly like Lumpy.
No, because it's just a Wookiee, Jeremiah. Not all Wookiees look alike.
Yeah, no.
I'm saying that one looks like Lumpy though.
Anyways, there's a lot going on this slide.
Lumpy, that's for sure.
There's a lot of
and
stuff
the one and the other kid next to him to his right, that looks like a young Kylo Ren. That's 100% a young Kylo Ren.
It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, it does look like him. I will admit, but that's not.
So I was out of the house yesterday.
Okay.
And Steph showed Miles Star Wars because he wanted to watch Star Wars, and she accidentally picked episode 8.
Boo!
Which I had no idea. She was like, I think we watched episode 8. I'm not sure. But anyways, he was like, where's Luke? Where's Luke? And then Luke turned around and Steph's like, that's Luke right there. And he's like, Steph said that his mouth dropped to the floor. And it was like, he's old. He like did not understand. And then the whole time he was like looking for Han. I'm like, oh, sad poor kid.
Oof, R.I.P. Dang. There's a lot that goes on in this book. There's a lot of new characters, if you can't tell. There's some really fascinating insight into Yuuzhan Vong culture from this. So this is one of my favorites. It's really action packed, and there's a lot of really cool moments in this. I will say, I'm not gonna lie, they don't. So this isn't really a spoiler. They don't really describe Ikarit the bunny Jedi, as people like to call him. They don't if they do describe him physically, I must have missed it, because like I remember reading it and like because they talk about his age. He's centuries and centuries and centuries old. And like they talk about his age and stuff, and I'm thinking like a smaller, like older being, kind of like a Yoda, but maybe a different species or whatever. I didn't really think about it. And then after I looked him up after reading the book, and I was like, that was a choice someone made.
Not what I was thinking.
And this is one of those things that I'm like, I maybe would have gone with a different design, but that's okay. Because he's also like, he's stupid powerful. He's one of the teachers at the Praxium. Anyways, Edge of Victory #1, Conquest, book 7. Here we go.
Not gonna lie, I would totally get that tattooed, that 80s image, but put Dobby and then give that kid a wand, but leave R2 there. Put Dobby's face on the rabbit and just leave R2 there and see if anyone gets it.
Should
I do that?
Let me tell you something. If someone got that, if someone saw that tattoo and got that, they're a deep fan. So this book, this is a book cover from a series of novels called The Young Jedi Knight Adventures. It was a kids series.
It looks like it.
And it covers Anakin, Jaina, and Jason, their younger years at the Jedi Academy. And we're going to get into his backstory in a little bit, but Master Ikrit is introduced in those books. There's actually like a few characters from those books that make appearances in this book and in another one that we're talking about tonight. But anyways, it was apparently a fun series, but there was a lot of whimsical, silly things happening in those books. Okay, so after War Master Svang La of the Yuuzhan Vong proclaims the Jedi to be captured to stop their invasion of the galaxy, Jedi are now being hunted down across the galaxy and either being killed or captured by the Yuuzhan Vong, desperate citizens of the galaxy, and or the Peace Brigade. These are some really sad examples. There are some really sad examples of this in the prologue, showing just how quickly the scared beings of the galaxy have turned in order to save themselves. It's sad. It's not like Order 66 montage sad, but it's close. Like there's like two main examples of Jedi being completely betrayed by the people they're trying to protect from the Yuuzhan Vong, and like they're killed and stuff. And anyways, on Coruscant, the Jedi have a meeting that, to put things lightly, goes pretty bad. Many of the Jedi are scared, and even more of them are extremely angry with the way things have gone throughout the galaxy. In an attempt to navigate the growing complexities of a galaxy at war, the price is on all of their heads, and the growing anti-Jedi sentiment in the Senate, Luke is extremely hesitant to make any rash moves. Many of the Jedi, including Kip, take this as far too stagnant an approach, and Kip ends up walking out of the meeting in frustration. Shortly after, Jaina, Jason, and Anakin come to the realization that the Jedi Praxium on Yavin 4 is at risk. They bring this up to Luke, who is, of course, worried about the younglings being exposed. He opts to bring in Talon Card to bring the young Jedi and the 3 or so masters there off planet, but says it's too risky for any of the solo children to go, especially Jason, because of the price on his head. However, Anakin is young, brash, and he's had enough. His close friend Tahiri Vila, I don't know, but it's Tahiri, is there, and he can't stand by idly. He disobeys his uncle and decides to go off alone in an X-Wing by himself.
Hey, who was it that left?
Anakin.
Oh, okay.
So Luke's like, hey, no, you probably shouldn't do that. And this stupid 16-year-old kid is like, nah, I'm gonna go all by myself and take on the galaxy, which is like classic teenager, honestly.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I tried to take over the galaxy when I was a 16-year-old.
Been there, done that. Didn't work.
I will say that like this book made Anakin one of my favorite characters. Like he's so powerful, and like honestly, he's just Luke 2.0, but in a way that we did. Like you might be like, oh, that's boring, but like he's like the younger version of Luke that is developing that we never really got to see, because he's like a full-fledged Jedi Knight. He's being trained, and he's like young and kind of an idiot, but he's also really powerful, and he has all these like growing leadership traits. It's really cool. Anyways, so he goes off on his own and is like, I'm going to save my childhood friend Tahiri. Which, by the way, if you're looking at the slides, that's Tahiri, and that's him and Tahiri beside the big orb. In fact, in this cover, this is the image of Tahiri in the little square is from one of the Japanese book covers, which were so much better than the American ones. And it's actually her and then Anakin, and then Ikarit is actually on Anakin's shoulder in that too. I just cropped them out. Anyways, they go way back. So Yavin is extremely close to the invasion corridor, and the only reason no one has realized the Jedi Academy is because Luke has shrouded it in a Falinasi Force illusion. They're just another Force sect. You don't need to worry about it. They were really good at illusions, and so him and the other Jedi placed an illusion around it to kind of keep it hidden from perception by people passing by. And because all the Jedi are dying out, the more Jedi die, the less people are there to help sustain it in the Force, and it's weakening. So Anakin arrives to find a bunch of Peace Brigade ships searching around the system, but not quite being able to see what they're looking for. However, the illusion fails completely the second Anakin shows up. There's a fight. There's a brief space battle. Anakin damages a ship or two, and then basically gets to the ground to warn everyone at the Academy. The only people at the Academy right now are 30 or so students, young students, and 3 or so Jedi Masters. Tion and Cam Solusar, who are both here, they're married. They were both original, like, first class Jedi students from Luke's class in like the Jedi Search series or Jedi Academy series. But they're now married. Master Ikarit, the bunny Jedi, is from the Young Jedi Knight series, as I mentioned. So here's the interesting thing. He was trained as a Jedi by Yoda and later became a Jedi Master in the Old Republic. During his career with the Jedi Order, he discovered the Masasi Temple on Yavin 4, which is one of the temples that they house the Rebel base in, which trapped the souls of many Masasi children. After failing to free them, he went into a self-imposed exile until the person who could free them came to the temple. So, like, you could think of it as like an early form of the Barash vow. Yeah, so he entered into a hibernation trance that lasted centuries. By doing this, he conveniently avoided all of the Jedi events for the next like 400 years, including the Clone Wars and the Great Purge. But Anakin and Tahiri discovered him in the Young Jedi Knight series, woke him up, and that's the orb. That they did the whole orb thing. They were best friends. Him and Anakin and Tahiri were best friends and partners in crime during the same books. Anakin has been gone fighting the war for almost a year now. He's turned 16, and Tahiri is now 14. Now, Tahiri has gone from being his childhood best friend to a girl, and Anakin isn't quite sure of what to make of that yet. There's some big like teen angst awkwardness between them in this book, where they're like, they don't know what to do with their relationship because they haven't seen each other for a while. But you can tell, you're like, I think there's something there. Anyways, a plan is made to save everyone. The plan is to evacuate everyone to another temple in the area, while Anakin and Ikarit buy time. Then the two of them will escape in Anakin's X-Wing and go get help. The temple's got a particle shield generator, which will keep the enemy ships out, but not blaster bolts. Ikarit uses the Force to convince the Peace Brigaders that there's a large force shooting at them. Anakin helps by laying down some covering fire. All is going well until some extra help starts shooting at the attackers from above in the temple. Tahiri has come to help, and she's got 2 friends, Sana and Valen Horn, who both of which are on the slide. Valen is Corran Horn's son, who is also a Jedi. And they decide to stay behind like dummies. Like, we're gonna help. There's a bunch of teenagers. We're gonna take on the galaxy. So meanwhile, the rest of the Jedi are picked up by Talon Card's company. Which, by the way, I have a picture of him at a later slide. But do we remember who Talon Card is?
No.
Oh my god. Okay. He's a main player in the EU Thrawn books. Like, Mara Jade is introduced as being his second command. He's a smuggler, but he basically turns into he helps the New Republic, turns into a good guy, runs what's called the Smugglers Alliance for a while.
Oh yeah.
So he's a main recurring character. I would say like a really important B character throughout the entirety of the EU. He's here and he's trying to help the younglings get off the planet. So Card sweet talks the Peace Brigade into believing that he's doing the same thing they are, i.e., trying to steal children. And unlike them, he brought something to track the Jedi with. He and his pet Vornskers, which, by the way, do you remember what a Vornsker is from the Thrawn trilogy? It's a Force-sensitive dog lion thing that can hunt using the Force. They hunt Force beings.
That's cool.
Yep. That'll come back later. Let me see. So he uses them to lead them to the hiding Jedi, where his people promptly betray the Peace Brigade people who they thought had him surrounded, and everyone escapes. Except Tahiri, Anakin, Valen, and Sana, and Master Ikrit are still on the surface. After they leave, Card and his forces do not leave the Yavin system as a result, and decide to wait at the edge of the system for a moment to jump in and help, because he has a heart of gold. The remaining Jedi steal a ship from the Peace Brigade and attempt to flee. However, in classic Star Wars fashion, it doesn't go that well, and Ikrit jumps out to buy them time, which is where he's like throwing ships aside with the Force. It's like it's so funny because like the few times he uses the Force in this book, it's written in a way where you're like, oh, he's really powerful. Like maybe not Yoda, but kind of close in some ways. But unfortunately, he gets shot down after buying them some time. And Tahiri, being a teenager full of emotion, jumps out and of the ship, the moving ship, mind you, and tries to help him. And then, of course, because of that and because of the fire and the whole battle and everything, Anakin with Sana and Valen have to leave them behind. They can't go back and get them. So, unfortunately, Tahiri is captured in the process. Let's see. He ends up crashing the ship several hundred kilometers away. They get help from an unexpected help from Coral, who is another character. He's an ex-Jedi or an ex-TIE fighter pilot from the Young Jedi Knights adventures as well. And him and the other Jedi, using parts that he has lying around, and Anakin's X-Wing, his astromech actually ends up finding them and brings it to him. They start trying to repair the ship. And Anakin goes towards the temple to save Tahiri, his friend. So this process takes 2 weeks. We're talking hundreds of kilometers. So it takes him 2 weeks, like 2 or 3 weeks to get there. During that time, the Yuuzhan Vong take the planet and begin hunting after him. After they figure out what happened, they also basically arrive and, because of their incompetence, kill all the Peace Brigaders. He also manages to break his lightsaber while killing a small atmospheric craft that the Yuuzhan Vong are riding in, because apparently focusing crystals don't take well to having the blade jammed into a Dovin Basil gravitic anomaly. So the focusing crystal breaks. Now, keep in mind, this is before Kyber. So there's a lot of talk about focusing crystals and stuff, but it's essentially like Kyber crystals before they were Kyber crystals. But he can't use his lightsaber anymore because his lightsaber is broken. Anakin is still remarkably capable and goes through like 3 or 4 different warriors unarmed. And then when he's hurt and cornered at one point, sticks a swarm of piranha beetles on the warriors using the Force. But then when it looks like all his luck has run out, Anakin is surprisingly rescued by a Yuuzhan Vong warrior.
What?
Yeah.
We got a defector.
You'll see. But yeah, so like there's a lot of action in this book, and Anakin he's pretty BA. For a 16-year-old kid, like he's skirting about as close to OP as you can get without being like OP, if that makes sense.
Right. I got my theory. I'm going to be probably wrong, but
what's your theory?
This Yuuzhan Vong that saved Luke is just
Anakin?
No, a regular person, or whoever. It could be anyone, someone we know, or maybe this is a new character that's using like a cloaking device that like the Yuzong Vong have to make them look like a person. They're using it to look like a Yuzong Vong so they can infiltrate the Yuzong Vong.
That's not a bad. It's wrong, but it's not a bad theory.
You should have waited.
I should have. It's a little bit more simple than what you're thinking, and at the same time, a bit more of a surprise than I think you're ready for. Like I said, we get a lot of insight into Yuzong Vong culture because of this. So there's your hint. So it's worth stopping here and introducing a new character called Nim Yin, who is in the presentation here. And this is like really the only other POV character we have in the story other than Anakin. But it's fascinating. So Nim Yin is an adept shaper. She's like an apprentice shaper. If you remember from the Yuzong Vong episode that we did, the Yuzong Vong have these different castes, and the shapers are one of them. There's a big subcategory of these people, and they are, I mean, they're exactly what they sound like. They shape the biotechnology. Their whole thing is like biotechnology. Alchemy is not the right word, but like growing new stuff, cultivating weapons and stuff. So like they're like gardeners for living technology. I don't know. I'm botching this, but you get the idea. So it's really, really cool. Her secret is that she's a heretic. That's her main distinguishing character point. So the Yuzong Vong believe that everything they know, all of the knowledge that they have has been given to them by the gods. And if they don't know something, it is not meant for them to know it, essentially. So all the advances in technology that they have, you are strictly to keep to those advancements, those protocols, and trying to discover things on your own is blasphemous in that you're trying to take the role of a god, right? Does that make sense? Like you're trying to do the job of a god, of one of their gods. And so she is like super scientific, very curious. And she's like, well, I'm going to figure stuff out on my own. There's got to be stuff. Like she has this inkling of a thought. She's like, there's got to be stuff that like the gods haven't told us, because she's experiencing all this stuff on Yavin, all this plant life and stuff. And she's like, there's some other stuff going on here that I feel like I can learn. And that's where the heresy comes from. And it's worth noting here that the shapers use what's called cortexes, which are these vast repositories of knowledge, and they're leveled. So there's 8 of them. The first 1 through 7 being, starting at 1, you're like basic level stuff, to 7, where you get to the level of mastery and you have all the knowledge unlocked to you. And then the 8th is supposedly this forbidden cortex, where the new knowledge being handed down by the gods is stored before it's disseminated through the supreme overlord and stuff. It's a whole thing. But anyways, so she has the backing of a master shaper who she's studying under, named Mezhan Quaid, who is also a heretic, and sought her out. These two have the great honor of being allowed to shape the captured Jedi Tahiri. They're literally going to try to shape her. And it is as horrifying as it sounds. Meanwhile, Anakin and the Yuzong Vong warrior who saved him work together to get into the Yuzong Vong compound. Even though neither trust one another, it's revealed that the warrior's name is Vua Rapung. He actually used to be a warrior, but is now a shamed one. This is another look we get into Yuzong Vong society. So in the caste system, the shamed ones are Yuzong Vong who their physical altercations have not been taken well by their bodies, and therefore that is viewed as the gods shaming you and casting their attention and affection away from you, essentially. Which is really interesting to me. But one of the main reasons is because the shamed ones are physically the same species as the Yuzong Vong, but they are valued underneath slaves. Like they are the lowest of the low. And so we find out Vua Rapung, who is also on the slide, he has a lovely looking face. all of his implants. He was once a celebrated warrior, and he got some additions to his body, and they just did not take, and so he was believed to be shamed. And he lost. When you are shamed, you lose everything. No matter what you did beforehand, all credibility is gone. You are now basically dirt. Because they care so much about their implants. So he was once a successful warrior, like I said. But his distinction is that he doesn't think the gods turned on him. He thinks his old jealous lover, Mezhan Quaid, the master shaper, did it to him.
Oh, dang.
Oh, yeah. Master shapers are supposed to be celibate, so this was a secret, shamed upon affair. It was very scandalous. He eventually broke it off for fear of their discovery, and he's certain that she poisoned his implants as vengeance. He needs Anakin's help to reach her and force her to publicly confess. So that's why he helped Anakin.
This is a story for a TM Zong. Get it? Because TMZ,
yes,
TM Zong,
yes.
Get it?
No. Yeah, I got it. Wow. That was good. Good job. So that's why he's helping Anakin. He's like, you're an enemy of my enemy, so we're gonna begrudgingly work together.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yep.
That's what they say. That's what the kids say.
On the Tic Tac. Anyways, after a nice forest battle and almost turning on one another, the two sneak into the compound, which was literally dropped on top of the Great Temple. So the Yavin 4 Great Temple is gone. They devoured it. They dropped the thing on it, and then it devoured part of the temple. It's gone, except for the lower levels underneath the ground. Anakin pretends to be a slave and is able to scout out the compound under disguise. He meets another shamed one who sets him to work harvesting lambents, which is the crystal-looking thing in the presentation.
Oh, it's not fruit?
No, so that's like the outer shell of a lambent. So they're crystals, they're grown, and they're crystals that they use for light sources.
Oh.
Ooh.
They're also really semi-telepathic, which comes into play.
The crystals are?
Yes. You can bond with one of the crystals.
Kind of like a kyber crystal. Oh. What? Why'd you do that one?
Anyways.
There you go.
There we go.
Crystal noise.
So Anakin is actually able, at one point, he's able to sneak in, grab one of the crystals that he kind of nurtures and bonds with, and he's actually able to replace his focusing crystal with it in his lightsaber.
Who? Anakin, you said?
Anakin, yeah.
Okay.
So you remember his lightsaber. This whole story is Anakin.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
little
like Annie. Do they call him Little Annie?
Yep. No, nobody calls it that.
No.
Imagine.
But remember, his lightsaber's broken. Now he has a new crystal.
But it's not kyber.
No, it's a Yuzan Vong lambent. It's a grown crystal. Anyways, the point of this is that because of his connection to the crystal and because of his bond with the crystal and because of his abilities in the Force, he's actually able to roughly sense them now in the Force by proxy through the crystal.
Oh,
he's able to sense who by the Force?
The Yuzan Vong.
Oh,
which
because you couldn't do that before, right?
No one could.
No one could.
So this is a big deal. He was like, "Oh, I can actually sense them," and he actually calls it his Vong sense, which is kind of, I don't know. He's a 16-year-old. Just like leave him alone. Anyways, so with its help, with his new abilities,
is working, guys.
With his new abilities,
tingle.
Oh my god. So, anyways, him and Vua go after the Shaper and to rescue Tahiri. They arrive just in the nick of time as Nin Yim and her master have been arrested for heresy, and the whole group is being loaded onto a ship to leave. The Shapers have blocked off Tahiri's memories of herself and installed a new personality, complete with past memories that they insist are her actual memories. So, I'm jumping over a lot here, but there's a few scenes where she's like driven to the brink of her sanity, and she's like warring with herself as this fake past takes over her current past. Like she's like scared and Tahiri.
Okay.
The one who got caught, Anakin's friend.
Right.
So like they're basically rewriting her brain to be Yuuzhan Vong.
Okay.
So what?
I thought I heard running around.
I thought so. I thought it was Cheeto meowing. I think it was my stomach. Anyways, so they're all at the ship. The warrior in charge, who was friends with Vua before he was shamed, demands that Mezhan answer Vua's questions about betraying him truthfully. They have an oath that lying under it would be basically to damn yourself before the gods. So it's a pretty big deal. Like once he calls this, she kind of has to say the truth. So she tells everyone that the gods don't exist, and then proceeds to kill half the warriors there, and incapacitate everyone else. So she goes full heretic. So it's worth noting that Shapers have really special hands. So as you ascend through the ranks of the Shapers, you will literally, they amputate your hand above the wrist and they give you a new hand that is specifically designed for shaping. And so it has more than 5 fingers. Each of the fingers are tipped with different tools. And then she has one that's like it's like a dart essentially, and then like a poison thing. And so she's able to do all that stuff.
Oh wait, so the Shapers like do like self-surgery on themselves?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I was...
And everything else.
Okay, I guess for some reason I was thinking it was more like the ones from the shapeshifters from like
Boba Fett?
No, like Marvel, the Skrulls or Skrulls, what are they called?
They're so the Shapers in this are they run all the technology, they grow the technology, they alter the technology, they're in charge of all the implants. Like there's self-mutilation, but anything that is added to a Yuuzhan Vong's body is through a Shaper.
Oh,
so they're
okay.
like the doctors and the scientists.
Oh, I thought they were shapeshifters themselves.
No.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Yeah. I got it now.
They're the masterminds behind all the technology, the biotechnology.
I get it now.
Yeah, so she has like, I think the Master Shaper's hand has like 8 or 9 fingers or something, and it's got like blades, and it's weird.
It's like a Swiss Army hand.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So let's see. The Master Shaper, the other heretic, is planning for their next action when Anakin's lightsaber starts to levitate. She tortures him to make him stop, but realizes too late that it's Tahiri's doing. Tahiri beheads her, and her and Anakin steal the ship. Vua Raphung, now vindicated in the eyes of his people, basically holds back the rest of the warriors while Anakin and Tahiri escape. Because Anakin helped restore his honor, he's like, no one is going to attack you. Like, I'm going to stand in the way and buy you time, which is very strange, knowing the Yuuzhan Vong culture. So anyways, they escape. He dies holding off the Yuuzhan Vong warriors in a very honorable way. Anakin can't fly the ship, but we find out that Tahiri, not only can she understand the language, but she can actually interface with the biotechnology in the ship and can actually fly it because of her implanted memories, which is kind of cool. They manage to get away, link back up with Coral and the kids, which could be a band name, and the whole group flees the system. Talon Card comes to their rescue when things are looking bleak. Booster Tarek comes to save the day. He's also going to be in a later slide. I think maybe the next one. He's Valen's grandfather, so he's Corran Horn's father-in-law. And so he has, during the Back to War, which is a previous story, he commandeered a Star Destroyer called the Errant Venture, turned it into a mobile casino free port like smuggler's den, and painted it bright red. It's like the coolest Star Destroyer you could probably encounter. So Jaina and Jason were sent to get him as backup for Talon Card, and when it became clear that the New Republic wasn't going to help, which, by the way, they didn't. None of the New Republic helped the Jedi. None throughout this whole thing. Fun. Anakin comes towards the end of the book. Anakin comes to the conclusion that the Yuuzhan Vong are not outside the Force so much as existing on a different spectrum of the Force that they've not been aware of. So just because he can't see them with his senses, his full senses, doesn't mean they don't exist. The end.
Fun.
Yeah. Super action packed. Anakin's super cool. He has like a super cool lightsaber he can use to sense the Yuuzhan Vong. He got that cheat code.
Why wouldn't all the Jedis just do that?
Okay, so actually, that does come up, but they can't get the lambent crystals because they're all behind enemy lines.
Oh, so he was
Luke was like, dude, this is really cool. This is amazing. But then it was very quickly they were like, yeah, but like we can't do that to scale.
So he was just in all right.
we can't mass produce this. So anyways, I just thought it was cool. So anyways, any questions about book 7?
No.
Cool.
Oh, what about the so you said it was just kind of like the Anakin and what's her face story,
Tahiri book, yeah.
But like, what about the guy that's like standing in the little like canopy thing with the little radar gun or whatever when ships come in? Like, what was that guy doing?
Well, I think he's not explored in this book, but I do personally think that he's the guy that they have on point to watch for deliveries to the base. And I think really and truly that he's looking for coffee and tea deliveries. That's the most important ones that they get at that base.
That makes
interesting.
Sense.
Yeah.
Well, now, what kind of coffee would they get out in Yavin on a former Jedi temple planet?
Yeah, true. What kind of coffee and or tea would they get?
The good kind.
Yep.
Maybe Wesley Andrews?
Yeah. That's the good kind.
Wow. Coincidentally, once again, our sponsor tonight is Wesley Andrews Coffee and Tea out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. So if you are a heretical plastic surgeon and you're looking for a good deal on some tea because you don't have a job anymore, I got a deal for you. So take a listen to this commercial.
Hey everyone, Andrew here. I'm pleased to tell you that the sponsor of today's episode is Wesley Andrews Coffee and Tea. If you don't know anything about Wesley Andrews, you definitely should. They're an award-winning coffee roaster and shop in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and they make fantastic coffee. The awesome thing is that whether you live in the Twin Cities or not, you can get their coffee beans delivered straight to your door by ordering them online. They even have a subscription service that ensures you never run out of amazing coffee. If you've been looking for some new coffee to try or a way to elevate your normal coffee routine, now's your chance. Head over to wesleyandrews.cc, use the code EMPIRERADIO, that's with a capital E and a capital R with no space at checkout, to get 15% off your first purchase of any bags of coffee or a coffee subscription. I can't think of a better deal. Get 15% off some great coffee, support a small business, and support your favorite Star Wars podcast. In the words of Emperor Palpatine, do it.
Do it.
Do it.
All right, what's next?
Edge of Victory 2 Rebirth. This is like a little duology thing, which they're not like super related, honestly. But anyways. So
we say the last one of these is part of the solid or no?
Yes. So we have 2 more. We have, and this next one's probably going to go kind of quick because this one, after the action and everything that happens in the last one, not as much comparatively happens in this one. But so we went through Balance Point, which was the first book, which was the second of the core books. We went through Conquest. So we have Anakin, Vua Rapung, Ninyam, and then we're about to go through Edge of Victory 2 Rebirth. And then, for those of you watching the video version, we're going to get to the thick boy. the one novel that's like
that's
3...
the one that's going to bring us to 4 hours tonight.
Yeah. So anyways. All right. Buckle up, Buttercup. Time to dive back in. All right. Okay. So rebirth takes place about 7 to 8 months later after after conquest. The reason we know that is because Mara was like barely showing in that book, and in this book, she's like kind of popping. She's like not about to give birth, but she's definitely farther along. Unfortunately, the illness is back. She's resulted to using the tears provided by Vergir to help in the remission, but it turns out that they apparently have side effects that could harm her baby. Mara chooses to go off the tears and ride out the remaining pregnancy, even if it might kill her, for the sake of giving birth to her son. Luke and Mara are forced to flee Coruscant after an order for their arrest goes out, after being involved in a, quote, unsanctioned military incident in the Yavin system. Freaking get this. So they go to save the Jedi. All right. They go to save all the Jedi kids. Okay. They get no help from the New Republic. Okay. They have to do things themselves. There's a little bit of a military skirmish. It's a whole thing. And Borsk Thalia, the freaking just snitch weasel of a chief of state, decides to court favor with the growing anti-Jedi sentiment by putting a warrant out for their arrests. Like, this is so stupid. Anyways, the whole thing turns.
That's not how you really feel about it,
dude. He's a snake, man. He's a snake, and he has a somewhat valiant end, but he's a snake. Even like because he's like really introducing the Timothy Zahn Thrawn books, and I'm rereading those right now, and even now I'm like, yeah, he hasn't changed. He's even worse in these books. Like, he's slightly better in the New Jedi Order books than he is in the Thrawn books, but even still, he's like Han hates him. Han hates his guts. But anyways, so while they're escaping, it almost turns into a legit revolt when Rogue Squadron comes out to Luke's aid. And as they are escaping, Luke convinces them to stand down, and then ends up sending Jaina after Kip to try to bring him back into the fold and kind of generally lead things in Luke's absence while he's trying to figure out the whole I might get arrested thing. Meanwhile, Han and Leia and Jason have been off setting up Luke's underground railroad equivalent for Jedi called the Great River. So basically, the idea is to be able to ship Jedi around, get them to safety, get new Force-sensitive children to safety in secret without the Yuuzhan Vong finding out. But right now, all of the young Jedi are training and hiding out in the Errant Venture. As it jumps around hyperspace, it's literally constantly moving, so it's harder to find. But they need a permanent home. So they end up hiding in what they call Shelter Base, which is built in the Maw, where Admiral Dalla's old secret base was. If you remember from the Jedi Academy trilogy, she had a secret Imperial installation in there. Like, didn't know about the Emperor's fall because of that.
Yeah, like she had like a super weapon or something.
Yeah,
right.
The Sun Crusher. So two of the pictures over here. One is of the Maul installation, which is kind of this it's like a bunch of asteroids that they kind of strung together, surrounded by black holes. This picture is obviously from the Imperial era because they had that like the skeleton of the Death Star there and stuff too. But it's the same vibe. And then of course we have the Red Errant Venture.
That's pretty cool.
Star Destroyer. There's no real good illustrations of this, so like this is the best one that I could find, and someone literally like probably put that into Photoshop and just hued it red, but it's a bright red.
It was more red than that.
Well, some of the like there are a lot of fan builds and like Lego builds and stuff, and a lot of them are like really bright red, like cherry red, almost like sports car red, but
Mustang red.
Build Ford tough, brother.
It's in the game. Wait,
race Dale. It's EA Sports.
I was like, that's not anything.
Yeah.
Build Ford.
Man went full EA for a second.
It's in the game.
Verb. It's what you do. Oh wow, I totally messed up this slide.
Oh, did you screw up?
two of the characters. It's okay. So Kilgal on the slide is the Mon Calamari, and Omini is a Yuzon Vong. I just got things mixed up when I was trying to finish these. So, anyways, for those of you watching the live version, you're probably not going to notice anything because I will have gone back and fixed them before Jeremiah puts them up.
For Jedi.
For those of you listening to this version, it's not going to matter anyways because
you're listening.
Yeah, and for those of you watching the stream, welcome to the real world. This is what happens when Andrew is busy and doesn't fully check over his work sometimes. Anyways, so while this is going on, Corran Horn goes on a supply run, and Anakin and Tahiri come along. Tahiri is doing better, but she's still kind of messed up. And this mission is her like first foray into like getting out and like being like leaving the house essentially. Corran has been hiding out with his father since the whole Ithor thing. If you know, he saved the planet and then was blamed for losing the planet, even though it wasn't his fault. During the mission, Anakin and Tahiri rush in to save another Jedi who was shot and killed by several Peace Brigade thugs. The two are arrested for being at the crime scene, and once it becomes clear that the police officer is on the Peace Brigade side, the two escape, and all three get chased off planet. Before he died, the Jedi says Yagdul to Anakin, which is a planet, which is the only planet circled on this map. It's actually not on this map, but it's on the other one. It's at the intersection of the Corellian trade spine and the Rima trade route. And it's the home of the Given, which are those aliens in the top right corner that look kind of like phantoms. Fun fact, there is one of those in the cantina scene in A New Hope.
Oh.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
I don't recognize him.
Yeah.
Because we get the skeleton dude, but...
Yeah, if you blink, you'll miss it. But they're there. So but that's what Given are called.
Jack the Skeleton.
A little bit, yeah. So anyways, he says Yagdul. Anakin says that is their location when they flee. This leads them right into a Yuzong Vong fleet, setting up to invade the system. You can't write luck this good, even though they did. That was the whole point of the book. But still, you know what I'm saying. So they manage to sneak on to a Yuzong Vong scout ship and take it, which is that asteroid-looking thing. So the whole point of these scout ships is they're literally grown to look like asteroids. So they can slowly enter undetected and kind of like those asteroid missile launchers in the Thrawn books. So same concept, but it's a ship. So they then get into the Yagdul system. They alert them of the coming attack, and that saboteurs are planning to kill their defenses on the planet. The plan ends up working mainly because they were helped by Shamed One aboard the scout ship. So this is interesting. This is the first time we hear of the Great Shamed One heresy, Jedi heresy. So what happened on Yavin has gotten out. So the Yuzon Vong killed all of the Shamed Ones on Yavin shortly after the Jedi escaped in the previous book because a rumor started. So Shamed Ones don't like being Shamed Ones. They don't like being the dirt underneath the Yuzon Vong heel. And so many of them really have come to hate the upper echelons of the society, and they want their freedom, understandably so. They're treated like trash. And so now you have this Jedi coming in and restoring honor to Vua Rapung. And now there's these rumors of maybe the Jedi are meant to lead the Shamed Ones to restore their honor and to restore their status. And so there's this heretical rumor kind of spreading. And somehow, even with all of them being killed on the planet, the rumor has spread. And so we learn about this rumor from the Shamed One on the ship, which I thought was fascinating. let's see. So basically, a Jedi showed mercy and helped a Shame One regain their honor and revealed that said Shame One had not been cursed by the gods by another Yuzan Vong. And if he had been wrongly condemned, what if they had been cursed because of the powers at B needed bodies to work the jobs no one else wanted to do? Big conspiracy. So anyways, the whole thing almost falls apart when they are jumped by a group of Yuzan Vong led by Nam Anwar on the space station that they're on. But thanks to Tahiri being able to speak Yuzan Vong and Anakin's knowledge of their culture, he is able to provoke a duel with the Warriors' leader, which the Warriors' leader, of course, doesn't want to back down from. So anyways, he wins the duel. But Nam Anwar is like a snake, and he kills all the warriors in the party because Anakin calls him a coward afterwards to leave no witnesses of this event. So the three manage to escape, but the Given, who live in a space station above Yagdul, in this particular instance, they vent the station they are on a vacuum because they can survive in vacuum for short periods of time. So they're like, maybe if we vent the space station, all the Yuzan Vong will die, we'll be fine, and then we will survive until we can repressurize everything, except that they didn't remember that 3 humans were on board the station. Human Jedi, mind you. So they find a single vacuum suit. So Corran puts it on while he jams Anakin and Tahiri in a closet with some extra air and seals it. And he's like, you guys stay here while I go find another suit or other suits, and I'll come back and I'll save you. Well, they share their first kiss in a cold, dark closet on a station running out of air, which is super romantic. It's worth noting that neither of them had anything resembling a normal childhood, and neither has had any sort of role model to look up to in the area of love. Like even Han and Leia they didn't really have a normal dating period. So,
they also had a closet kiss.
So how long were they in this closet?
I don't know, 15, 20 minutes or something like that.
Oh, was it 7 minutes?
That's a deep cut, man. But anyways, they just jump kind of into they kind of jump into this with both feet, and afterwards are like, okay, so what now? Like there's clearly something between them, and it's actually honestly there's this like strikingly mature conversation between the two of them where Anakin's like, I want to figure this out. Like I don't know how to feel right now, but I want to figure this out together. So like let's figure this out as we go together. And I was like, oh dude's growing up. Like good job. So anyways, Jaina does end up tracking down Kip, and apparently it's not hard because Luke has put a tracking device on his ship, Kip ship. Kip convinces her to help him take down a Vong super weapon. He's got a holo of this starfish-shaped mega ship sucking in a solar flare from the star out where it is in the outer rim. Anything that can do that could easily destroy a planet. So he's like, this is a super weapon. It's kind of like Starkiller Base charging up. So they're growing this thing at the wreckage of Serpendal, which is the death place of Chewie in the first book. So Jaina gets Rogue Squadron and Wedge Antilles in. So Wedge had actually... He might not even be recommissioned in this book. I can't remember, but Wedge like ends up coming back to the military after being retired and ends up being a general for like the rest of the books. So it's pretty cool. They bring in Admiral Crefay from the earlier books, and they plan an off-the-book strike on the shipyard because they're like, we've got to stop this thing, and if the military won't help, we're going to do it ourselves. So the plan works, even though they take losses, but they kill the super weapon. It's only after the fight that Jaina realizes she's been lied to. It wasn't a super weapon. The thing that they killed was an infant world ship. The trick with the solar flare was done with a daisy chain of several thousand Dovan vassals strung out in the system, not a single massive one. When confronted, Kip admits he knew the world ship was essentially a non-combatant, but in killing this, they forced the Yuzan Vong to use their military ships to evacuate their populations on century-old world ships that are too old and sick to move anymore. So this is kind of sketchy. This is one of those instances. First of all, Jane is pissed. she's like, she was like, don't ever speak to me again. Like, if you do, I will kill you, essentially. And it's sketchy. It's sketchy. I'm not going to lie. Like, this is not a very Jedi-like thing to do. So anyways, the last plot of this book takes place on one of the aging world ships. Ninyam, the Shaper from the previous book, survived because no one that experienced the heresy was around to witness it. And she's not being considered as a heretic anymore. She has, however, been shipped to the decaying world ship in the middle of nowhere and is trying to heal it. It's old and senile, and she's attempting to regenerate the brain. The knowledge of the Shapers. So this is what they talk about the codexes. Because she's an adept, she doesn't have access to the information she needs to actually make a difference in saving the ship. So she's like, I'll do another heresy and try to figure it out myself. And if I'm found out, at least I'll save the ship in the process, and like maybe they'll save my life. They'll spare me in that way. So she asks for help from her bosses, and then they send her a master shaper who is senile. And I'm not going to lie, the only way that I can describe him is... No, there's a better way. There's a more family-friendly way. He's a weirdo. In like the worst predatory sense of the word, if you catch my drift. Yeah. He's anyways, not a great person, being, whatever. He's so bad that she is plotting his permanent demise, permanent departure from the galaxy, if you will, basically from the moment she meets him. In a moment of his personal weakness, she's actually able to use his weaknesses against him to grant her access to all of the codexes, essentially. She takes a deep dive looking for an answer, but when the final 7th codex tells her that saving the ship is impossible, she is able to actually push past into the 8th cortex, the forbidden one. What she finds shatters her faith in her people because the codex is empty. The codex is supposed to contain truths that are slowly being disseminated to the people from the gods as they prove themselves worthy of new information, and they're not supposed to be empty.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So she's like, oh, shoot. This is all. There's a lot of this. That's a lie. Like, maybe what we're being told isn't entirely true. So she's taken by the old, after finding this out, she's taken by the old shaper to the leader of the Yuuzhan Vong, Supreme Overlord Shimra, who is there. There's honestly not really great pictures of him. There's not a ton of like full body photos of him, but he is on a lot of the covers, and he has he has eye implants that like change colors and shine and stuff. But anyways, she's taken to him, and he reveals to her that the codexes are indeed empty. They have reached the end of the knowledge they have. And so he recruits her to join a small group of shapers who are making new discoveries and adding them to the 8th cortex. The heresy goes all the way to the top. And it turns out the old shaper is actually Shimra's jester, lackey pet person, Omini, in disguise, who is like a super deformed Shame One. And it's interesting because in this moment, it's described that Shimra can, being in his presence, like there's a physical and a mental weight to being in his presence. Like he's depicted as being extremely, he's also the biggest Yuuzhan Vong there is, but he's also like, you get the sense that he has some sort of powers because she feels like he's like searching her thoughts, and like he can see right through her, and his presence is super intimidating, and she's afraid, and like all of that changes in an instant the second she gets in the room. So it's very evident that like he's the big bad guy for a reason. Like he's a true threat, if you catch my drift. Let's see. This is the point where she switches from idle curiosity regarding the infidels to true hatred when she learns about the world ship that was killed. She's radicalized even more. because it would have rescued all the people trapped on the dying world ships, now fated for death, essentially. So the story ends with Mara having her boy, Ben Skywalker.
No button, Drew.
Wow. Dang, dude. You're waiting for that. And unfortunately, she is dying right before going into labor. Luke has been lending her his strength through the Force, but she has been focusing everything on her unborn son to protect him while letting her body fall apart. Luke has a trippy Force vision of Ben's future without Mara, but it's kind of clear that it wasn't foreshadowing as much as it was like a Force vision kind of fueled by Luke's fear in the moment.
Kind of like his dad.
Yeah, he's reminded by a voice that the future is always in motion and that what you see is just one possible future. The voice sounds like Ben Kenobi's voice, which shouldn't be the case since Ben technically hasn't been able to talk to him since Heir to the Empire. That's like a whole thing in the beginning of the book. Anyways, that's the reason they name him Ben. They had really not been sure of a name before then. But after giving birth, Mara is magically cured of the illness, baby Force magic, and trippy Force visions for the win. That is a direct quote from Naga's Shadow. Thank you for that. Yeah, like the whole process of him being born and then like merging in the Force for a second, like completely heals her or something. Anyways,
so that's the end of like already powerful in the Force.
Yeah, that's the end of the book, and everything's right in the world. Well, in a very small portion,
galaxy
small portion of the world. Yeah. So, anyways, that's the end of the book. But the thing that I loved about this was I really enjoyed the ending with Ninyam meeting Shimra, because like there are many references to Shimra throughout these first few books, the Supreme Overlord, and he's ruling everything, and he's like the direct vein to the gods' wills and all these things. And you're like, yeah, but like he's not really present. And then you finally meet him, and you get that scene of her like cowering in fear before him and his power, and you're like, oh. This is an actual like threat. Like he's like a Palpatine level bad guy in some ways. And I was like, but then the book ends and you're like, so she's like doing secret heresy for him now. And like, it's crazy because like it is multiple books before we return to that storyline. So I was like, oh, I've got to like the curtain's been pulled back. The Wizard of Oz has been unveiled. And now I'm like, I want to know what's happening with the secret heresy camp. And then you don't get that immediately. So when you finally go back to it, I was really excited when you finally come back. But anyways, that's the end of the third book. Any questions?
No, except that I kind of already knew that the kid was named Ben.
Okay, good for you.
Because I remember when they like after they revealed that Kylo's real name was Ben, that they took that version of that from the EU.
Yeah. They also just released, I think it was Corbanth sabers, just released a replica of Ben Skywalker's lightsaber, and it's really cool. It's really cool. So
the one he had for like a hot minute.
Huh?
The one that he had for literally a hot minute.
Huh?
He didn't have it that long, right? Or the one, or is it supposed to be
Ben Skywalker, Luke's son? So he grows up and becomes a Jedi, and he has his own lightsaber.
Oh,
yes, and that's the hilt. Yeah, it's really cool. It has a little mini like Kanan Suba crossguard on it. It's like not as big. Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. You can see like there's a little bit of like Luke's influence in there from like both Luke's saber, but then there's like some unique elements and like yeah, it's pretty cool. It's also really expensive, but yeah, they had recently released, I think it was Jaina and Jason's hilts as a set too, which was cool. Corbanth is like one of the OGs that's like doing like unique stuff. They're not like, they have their legacy sabers, but they're like legit. Not just a carbon copy seller. Anyways, are we ready for book 9, Star by Star, aka Thick Boy Supreme?
Yep.
Okay, buckle up.
About another hour or so, or what?
This is a long book, and we're gonna go through it as fast as we possibly can. Here are two things that you really need to keep in mind. First, I've said this before, but so much impact of the things that happen in this book is going to be lost because I'm summarizing. This is a book that, like, to feel the full impact and to get the full, like, breadth of everything that's happening, like, you really have to read. You have to read it. Like, kind of the same with Chewie's death, where, like, hearing Chewbacca died is sad, but, like, you don't get the full weight of the situation until you read, like, those final moments and, like, the conversation between Han and Anakin afterward, where Han blames Anakin. Like, all these super emotional things can't be fully felt until you read them. It's the same thing with this book. The second thing you need to know is this is the part in the New Jedi Order arc where things take a turn for the worse. Like, in a good story arc, there is a moment where the heroes, like, really take a beating. This is that point where things start going downhill very badly. This book is the thickest one for a reason. A lot of stuff happens. A lot of it is really bad. And as you'll see soon, the New Republic takes some pretty serious hits. I'll say it that way. So buckle up, Buttercup. Right, let's jump into Star by Star. If you can't tell, there's a lot of new characters in this book. There's a lot.
Is that the Beast?
No, dude, that's freaking Borst. Anyways, before we dive in, if you're curious about,
no, it's Beauty, bro. You get it? Beauty and the Beast.
Boo. What do you mean, boo? Those are the good comments. What do you mean?
So if you're interested, that swirly thing in the top right-hand corner, that is a world ship. That's what a world ship looks like.
All right.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Dragon Ball Z.
What?
It reminds me of Dragon Ball Z.
Okay. It's a Super Star Destroyer sized world ship, essentially. Like, there's whole civilizations that live in those as they fly across the galaxies. The thing that looks like a Terminator is a new battle droid that we'll talk about, but you might be wondering, that looks like an action figure.
Yep.
And that's because it is. So they did a run in, like, I think the early 2000s of, like, Legends action figures. So this is an official action figure based on this character. That's made by Hasbro. And it was one of those ones where you had to buy all the figures from the series and put it together as a full droid. So there's actually
it's a Build-A-Figure.
Yes. So there's actually a Nam Anor action figure. You can buy it. There's also a Jason one. There's a Jaina one. There's I don't know if they did a Mara Jade from the series, but anyways, they're it's actually pretty fascinating. There's some Legends. There's some really interesting Legends action figures out there. So yeah. We do have 3 points of interest on the map this time. We're going to go back to Merkur, which is where Talon Card and Mara were originally set up in the Heir to the Empire, where the Ysalamiri are from. We're going to be on Coruscant, and then we're going to be in a secret base, Jedi base in the core. And I just picked the spot because they don't really... It's just in the core. It's hidden in the deep core somewhere. So anyways, a lot of new characters. Oh, I mentioned Tekli, the Chandrafan Jedi, the little bat species, also in the Tatooine Cantina. Yeah, she's a Jedi healer. And she's not, like, super powerful in the Force, but she's really good at healing. She's one of Kilgal's main students, and got Heart of Gold, and is really good at healing people. So there's Lobaka, by the way. Also, one of the main points about Lobaka is that he has a bronze-colored lightsaber, which is pretty cool. So that's one thing that was kind of prevalent here. That it's not super integral to the story, but, like, multiple colored lightsabers were a thing. Like, Corrin's is silver, his is bronze. Mara's is purple at one point. Leia's is red. Like there's a bunch of different colors. So we weren't as rigid on there's like 5 colors for the Jedi and they mean specific things and stuff like that. It was a little bit more kind of whatever the authors were feeling at the time, which I thought was pretty cool. All right. So this is approximately 2 years since the start of the war. All right. So this book takes place, I mentioned the books cover like a 5-year period. This is roughly around the halfway point in what will eventually be the full war. So the story starts aboard a passenger's transport that is stopped by a Yuzan Vong ship. They're searching for the Jedi, and the captain insists that none are on board. However, the Yuzan Vong bring out their newest creation of Voxen, which is the beast in the kind of the middle towards the top. There are in fact 2 Jedi. The captain is sheltering on board Alima and Numa Rar, 2 siblings, Twi'lek siblings. So Voxen are a result of the Shapers getting a hold of Vornskers from Merkur. You remember I said that Talon Card has a pair of them. They can hunt using the Force. Well, the Shapers saw that and they were like, why don't we just make a weapon out of them to hunt Jedi? So they did. They made them horrible. They've got 6 legs. They're like half reptilian, half dogs. They've got they can belch acid strong enough to melt starships. Their screech is loud enough it can be rated as a sonic attack. Their scales are tough enough to take blaster bolts. Their claws carry multiple retroviruses. Their spines are coated with the toxin. When they're cut, their blood atomizes into the air as another poison. And then, of course, they can sense Jedi, and they, like even when they're trying to hide, they can sense them through the Force and basically hunt them that way. So a very extremely credible threat now. And we learn this
cleaning up after that thing.
Well, we learn this as the 2 sisters are trying to escape. Alima Rar barely escapes with her life, but her sister Numa does not. And the way she dies is like it's pretty gruesome. Like she gets acid all over her face, and like it's very clear in this moment. They're like the Jedi are very clearly caught off guard by a threat they've never faced before. So again, this book, very dark. There's lots of loss in this book. So anyways, the Yuzan Vong are pushing in from all angles, and the Republic is fracturing, trying to protect everything it has left. And it's spread them out so far that they can't mount any form of a counterattack. Many of the systems are cut off from the rest of the galaxy by the push. They're left on their own. On top of it all, they're taking hostages. A major issue in this book is a fleet of refugees that the Vong are holding and demanding the surrender of the Jedi in exchange for their release. The Jedi don't have the forces specifically to break them out, and the New Republic can't, quote, spare the forces either because they're stretched too thin. Really bad situation all around. So the Jedi forces at this point are essentially a couple of starfighter squadrons operating out of Eclipse, which is a Jedi secret base in the Galactic Core. We already have Kip's dozen and 2 Avengers. Later in the book, it's worth noting that Luke puts 2 more squads together of Jedi, both Jedi and like regular pilots. But most notably, we're introduced to the Wild Knights, which is like an almost all Jedi squadron under the leadership of Saba Sabatine. She's on here. So she is a bearable. Or Barble. Hold on. Let me get this right.
Not a Trandoshan.
No, actually. And they're in... I think they're in canon somewhere. But anyways, bearable. Yeah, bearable. But they're kind of like Trandoshans, but they're like the other Wookiee-sized lizard creatures known for their aggression and stuff. But like she's a really cool character. I'm not gonna lie. Like
Which one is she? Can you say the name again?
Sabatine. She's the reptilian one on the
one that looks like a Trandoshan.
Trandoshan, yeah.
Second row.
Yeah. Yeah, she's super cool. She has 3 other bearable Jedi under her tutelage that are also somewhat main characters, but I really like Saba. She's really cool. She has kind of a minor character arc throughout this whole thing. So, yeah. So they've also not been idle, the good guys, during this time, and they have 2 new weapons that are introduced in the book. The first is what they call shadow bombs, which are essentially proton torpedoes where the propellant has been removed and they've used the extra space to like increase the yield of the warhead. And so what they do is they drop these behind the ships and they use a Jedi who can use telekinesis to basically maneuver it into place while they're flying, and then they can trigger it to detonate. And so it's a way to kind of get past the Dovin Basil like void defenses, because it's much harder for them to detect, so they can get them right up close to a ship or like leave them when they're trying to run away and do it that way. So it's kind of a secret missile bomb thing. And then of course the other weapon is the YVH droid, which is invented by Lando, interestingly enough. So the YVH, or the Yuzong Vong Hunter, is a battle droid designed to not only kill the Yuzong Vong, but piss them off because they hate machines. They were literally designed to look kind of like Yuzong Vong without skin. That's also why they kind of look like Terminator robots. They're 2 meter tall metal skeletons. They have self-regenerating armor and built-in blaster cannons, grenade launchers, and more, depending on the configuration. They all speak with a super deep BA-sounding rendition of Lando's voice. Like, they are the perfect soldiers against the Yuzong Vong. So they're first introduced at a weapons test on Coruscant, and it ends up identifying several infiltrators in the staff there at the demonstration, because they can detect the Yuzong Vong through the maskers that they wear. The blasters weren't fully powered up because it was a demonstration, so it just beats them to death. They're like super BA droids. Yeah. Like we're not talking B1s or even B2s. Like, these are like, think of like a commando droid from the Clone Wars with like self-regenerating armor, and they're like extremely smart. So pretty cool.
Kind of like an IG droid, kind of.
Yeah, actually, yeah, but
or
like even
a
more
K2 droid,
but like even more deadly.
They kind of look like a K2,
a little bit,
kind of.
But they're like super strong. They're really resilient. They're also really expensive, and so that's why one of the reasons why they're not used a great, like, they're used in the books when it really counts, but like there's a reason why they don't have like an army of them, because they're like super like, the armor specifically is extremely expensive to make, so they have to be made in smaller quantities. Okay, so back to the plot. The Voxen are taking apart Luke's Great River because they're hunting Jedi. Many of the Jedi die, but they are eventually able to bring back enough Voxen corpses for Kilgal to analyze. She figures out that the Voxen are made out of Vornskers, the Force hunting creatures from Merkur, and ends up learning that they are indeed clones from an original that is somewhere. So they're cloning them. So in typical Star Wars fashion, a strike team needs to go to Merkur, kill the Voxen Queen, and destroy the cloning facility. Unfortunately, Merkur is now about 10,000 light years behind enemy lines, and the Yuzong Vong have mined. They've got like gravity mines, and they've set up sensors at every hyperlane in the territory. So like you can't get there through hyperspace. You can't. Like, it's impossible. So Anakin Solo comes up with a plan to have a group of Jedi be, quote, captured and then betrayed by a, quote, concerned citizen trying to stop the whole hostage thing that we mentioned earlier. Once the Jedi are taken aboard a Yuzong Vong ship and the ship crosses into enemy territory across the mines and everything, the idea is the Jedi will seize the ship and take it straight for Merkur. Anakin, of course, volunteers, and Luke shoots him down, saying that Luke will do it instead. Except Anakin has a point. Jedi Masters will just get killed because the Yuzong Vong aren't stupid enough to try to capture a ton of Masters, so they're going to basically, if they're going to either kill them or take them straight to sacrifice. They need a team that consists of young, generally unproven Jedi that the Yuuzhan Vong think they can control. Combine that with the fact that Tahiri is the only person who can actually speak their language, and the strike team is finalized. So the full team ends up as follows. Anakin Solo, who is the leader of the team. He's now 18 at this point. So Anakin is the leader. Ganner Rhizode is a fake leader. So the idea is to have a fake leader to throw the scent off Anakin's trail while he's actually doing the leading. Jaina Solo, Jason Solo, a Jedi named Zek, Lobaka, Tekli, Tessar Sabatine, who is Saba's son, Alima Rar, Ulaha Kor, who is a Bith Jedi. That's interesting. Tinoka Joe. Tinoka is a Dathomiri. I don't think they're called Night Sisters, but she's like a Dathomirian warrior in this universe who's also Force sensitive. And finally, a few of the Yuuzhan Vong droids, 2 of them specifically. So it's a pretty big team. Oh wait, I completely forgot a whole list. Errol B, Bella and Krasov Hara, who are also bearables. Droven Drark, which is a geez, why am I
Rodian?
Yes, thank you. Geez, my brain. Raynal Thol, Tahiri Vela, and Tinoka. That's what I meant to say. So there are 19 of them, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So 17 Jedi and 2 droids.
All right.
But Han is very against this, but after hearing the argument of logic, he begrudgingly is like, yeah, whatever, you can do what you want. Okay. So Ulaha is the Bith is badly injured during the capture. And afterwards, the group is tortured by the Yuuzhan Vong while they travel. Each one is subjected to it, but Ulaha gets the worst by far. It's only after Jaina cries out for the overseer to stop picking on her that she realizes that the Yuuzhan Vong didn't think Ulaha was weak. They were just looking for a person among the group to break first, and that's Jaina. He turns to Jaina, but rather than hurt her, he threatens Ulaha. Ulaha ends up injuring herself even more because so they're using a Voxen to try to break her, and she tries to basically take it out, and she gets like low-key poisoned and stuff in the process. It's a really messy situation. But she does manage to kill the Voxen in the process. So this starts problems between Jason and Anakin. All right. So Jason doesn't completely trust his brother so first and foremost, the two have been having this whole philosophical argument about the Force for the entirety of the series. Anakin believes that the Force is a tool, one of many in a Jedi's arsenal, while Jason believes that the Force is a calling. Jason has stopped being a complete pacifist at this point, but he's still very much unsure about whether it's even morally right to even attack anyone who didn't attack them first. He's basically still he's a big baby. He's still a baby.
Well, it's still the line that the Jedi used, that the Jedi don't attack, they defend.
Yeah. But he's taking it to the extreme, to the point of inactivity and being frozen when he should be acting. And Anakin, yeah, it's been a whole thing this whole time. So Jason doesn't trust Anakin because before Ulaha goes to attack, gets tortures and attacks and kills the Voxen, he says something to her in her ears, or what equates to her ear, whatever the holes they have on the side of their heads, right? So there's this conversation that happens where you see it from Jason's point of view, and then she attacks the Voxen, and he's like, Anakin's going to the dark side because he told her to attack it and sacrifice herself and blah, 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 blah. And really, Anakin told her that it was okay if she broke, if she couldn't handle the torture. He was like, just break. Like we'll be fine. Like he's trying to be compassionate. But Jason, for some stupid reason, is like, Anakin's too gung ho, and he told her to sacrifice it. Like, dude, what? Like, it's his brother, and like in the middle of this, he doesn't trust him. Like, come on. Anyways,
have you watched Mufasa? It just came out on Disney Plus today. I watched it. Just reminding me of that movie today.
Is it worth watching, Jeremiah?
It gets good towards the end, but the musical parts were kind of the musical singing. They're trying to be all cool with songs, and it was kind of lame. It was kind of boring for like most
I was trying to get Miles to watch it today so I could watch it. He was not for it at all. He wanted to watch The Force Awakens instead.
But good choice.
Yeah. That was cool.
All right. So yeah, Jason thinks he demanded she kill it or worse, kill herself to protect the group. Anakin actually told her it was okay to pretend to break and answer the question the interrogator was asking. She pulled the whole trying to kill the Voxen thing on her own. So they escape shortly afterwards, and Jason's distrust is damaging the relationships in the group. So it's worth noting that they form a force meld using the concept that the Solo children originally tried in the first book. They develop a force meld among the Jedi to share in each other's strengths, to reinforce one another in battle, and to increase their senses and all that stuff. And Jason is basically in charge of maintaining that meld throughout the mission to make them as optimal as they possibly can be as Jedi. Well, of course, when you start second guessing your own flesh and blood, that is going to negatively affect the force meld. So it starts kind of breaking down a little bit.
Can he connect to his brother better because they're brothers? Is that a thing talked about at all, or is it just
he can't? I mean, I think he can connect with him better than another like a stranger. It's really him and Jaina as twins have a super strong bond. But yeah.
Okay.
So Jason does confront Anakin about the whole situation shortly after, and basically Anakin tells him off and starts avoiding him, and they don't really have time for Jason to apologize until much later, but the damage in the meld has been done. So then they arrive at Merkur after commandeering the ship, if you will, and things continue to get really bad. So when the ship carrying the 17 Jedi goes dark, so the Yuuzhan Vong know that they capture some Jedi, and then the ship goes dark, and they're not fools. And so they're like pretty much immediately, they're like, okay, 17 Jedi, they capture a ship, where they're going to go with it first. Like, why do they need a ship, and where are they going to go with it? And they immediately are pretty much like, they're going after the Voxen, right? So the plan fails immediately as Nam Anor is waiting at Merkur with another ship. So the Voxen cloning facility is on an old world ship in orbit. It's near Death Star size thing that usually contains an entire civilization, or like a mass chunk of it. This one is old and half dead. It's decrepit, as some might say. So they managed to get most of the Jedi crew, to the surface of the world ship by flying low over the world ship and dropping thermal detonator bombs. So everyone rides. It's really crazy. So everyone rides one of the bombs down, and they get off the quote unquote dud and get away from it before like remotely setting it off. Essentially, it's kind of crazy. But Ulaha is too injured to come down with them, so she stays on the ship and tries to escape after the bombing run, and tries to like lure the Yuuzhan Vong forces away from the surface. But unfortunately, she ends up sacrificing herself to help let the others survive. So we've already lost one Jedi, technically two if you count Numa at the beginning of the book. So we've lost two Jedi already. like I said, there's a lot of loss. So the group attempts to hit the cloning facility, but there are simply too many defenders. They lose the droids in this assault and pull back, circling around the facility to where the Voxen are trained. They can also sense someone else in the Force and rescue them. It ends up being two characters named Lomi and Welk, two dark side characters from the Young Jedi Knight series. They're both still clearly very dark side aligned. And Zek, one of the Jedi that goes on the mission, has a history with them and is all for like, no, we should just leave them behind. Like they're not worth picking up. But Anakin's like, no, we're gonna. No one gets left. Ohana means family, and family means no one gets left behind. So, anyways, Anakin rescues them with their promise to lead them through the training grounds so that they can lose their pursuers and make another attack on the cloning facility. Zek's distrust of them is also damaging to the battle meld. So it's just digressing into chaos. The group gets the drop on the pursuers and kills a lot of them, but Nam Anor has brought a ton of troops with him. They end up getting away into a slave city where the locals press in looking for help for escape. This is where Anakin, as a leader, makes a first mistake. He doesn't immediately disperse the crowds, and because of the crowd cover, the Yuuzhan Vong are able to get in and start attacking them at close range. The group is separated. More losses are taken. Anakin orders most of the group to stay back, holding their exit. And then mistake number 2, charges in by himself when Jaina gets in trouble. So the Yuuzhan Vong learn that Jaina and Jacen are twins, and this is a really important point for later. Unlike humans, twins in Yuuzhan Vong culture are extremely rare. So rare that there are twin gods. They're so rare that when twins are born, they're meant to be either extensions or manifestations of the two twin gods. So they're like the second they find out they're twins, they're like, this is the ultimate sacrifice. Like if we sacrifice these two, we're winning the war. Like we've got to get our hands on these twins. We have to get them alive. We have to get them both. So because of this, Nam Anor makes a massive effort to capture as many of the Jedi alive as possible and definitely not kill the twins. So Anakin in this battle manages to get himself run through with a spear. It's actually a pretty terrible wound. And while he would be okay if they could stop and Anakin can enter a healing trance momentarily, he ends up with they can't stop. And that is that's a really big thing that's hard to convey about this part of the story, is this continual bombardment behind enemy lines. Like more people are getting hurt. They're losing Jedi. Like I'll go ahead and spoil this: of the 19 or of the 17 that go, only 9 of them return. Wow. So they're losing Jedi left and right, and they're running constantly. They're getting tired. They're getting beat down. And there's this massive sense of weight and despair in the book. It's really hard to convey, but you can tell things are getting really, really bad, really fast. And it's continuing to get worse. So they take some more losses. Lomi and Welk end up betraying them and try to escape in a rusted up ship they encounter. Raynor goes with them, stealing the ship. So they steal the ship and it's probably destroyed and they're probably all 3 killed. We don't really know. It's a mystery. We never really find out. So the Jedi are on their last legs with dwindling supplies and have been on the world ship way too long. So the original plan had a 78% chance of success, recalculated to a 50% chance after getting in the system, and with the chance dropping 2% per hour. They've been there nearly 30 hours, and they are long past due. They're essentially at the do or die point. So Anakin leads the assault, who is still severely injured, by the way. Leads the assault on the cloning facility. At this point, his wound, which was hastily sewn shut, has reopened, and he has internal bleeding. He knows he's in serious trouble, but ignores it. He puts Jacen in charge before they go in and he decides to act as a distraction. Anakin ends up killing like 50 warriors single-handedly during this point. He draws so much on the Force that he physically starts to glow. He literally becomes so in tune with the Force, he becomes the perfect warrior. Like 50, like it's easy to think about Yuzong Thong warriors as like cannon fodder, but like each one of the warriors is like normally a serious threat to a normal Jedi. Like so much so that like many Jedi have been killed because of these warriors, trained Jedi, right? So he takes like 50 of them in this last like scene. He ignores his fatal wounds. He keeps fighting, but his body quite literally, like it's on fire because of the Force. He's glowing and it's quickly burning out. So he ends up dying after making, an incredible final stand when his super wounded body can no longer handle the connection to the Force he's established.
It's not true. That's impossible.
So this was the gut punch.
What?
This was the gut punch.
So he dies because he's too in tune with the Force?
Well, no, he dies. Okay. So
he dies because he's so injured and he can't heal himself.
Yes, he dies. So he goes in to try to sacrifice, like to buy time for them to kill the Voxen Queen in the cloning facility. And so he goes in and is like, I'm going to fight until my very last breath. Like he has internal bleeding. Like, okay. I mean, arguably he's dead walking in. Like he's chosen to move forward and move forward and move forward so much. Like he could have healed himself earlier on, but he was like, just sew me shut, stitch me up, I'll keep going. And because like there's a whole like separate internal thing with him where he's like feeling the weight of being the leader of the mission and like wanting to make the right decisions.
How old is
like,
he at this point?
18. And he's like, I got to keep going. And then like, so he goes into fight, and on top of fighting, he opens himself fully to the Force, and his body's too weak to handle it. And so he like literally like he glows. Like he's so in tune with the Force. He's opened himself so fully that he ends up becoming the perfect weapon at the cost of his own physical body that can't handle the weight of the connection. And so like he's like, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out and take as many people with me.
So if he healed himself or wasn't injured, he would have been able to handle the connection?
Potentially. We don't know.
Interesting.
Because he mentions like, I don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure I remember him kind of being like, it's been told that this is a very risky thing to do, even fully healed. So like he also knows the risk of like, I don't know, it's
before he does it.
Yeah, it's one of those mechanics of the Force that like just kind of is there and they don't explain it. But like,
I don't know,
there's a risk. There's a sense of a risk involved.
I just feel like that connection, he was so connected to the Force that it would have healed him. Just like when Kanan got his sight back, when he was so like, he was more connected to the Force in that moment when he died than anything in his life. And he got his sight back. Like it healed him. The Force healed him because he was so connected. I was like, dang.
It isn't. We don't know how it works, because that's the other thing. Like with a Jedi healing trance, the whole focus is like you're using the Force to actually like actively heal yourself. Whereas in this, like he was using the Force to enhance his fighting abilities, and so like maybe it's not like a get out of jail free card where it just does everything at once. Like maybe you have to focus it, you know. So like I don't know. All I know is like this is arguably one of the coolest ways to go out. Like you take down like 50 like buffed up warriors that are basically engineered to like take down Jedi. You're glowing, you're like physically burning up because of the power that you're wielding. And he's like, I mean, he's just like the perfect fighter.
Have you seen those like shorts or whatever of like, it's like a video meme and it's like, girls, I want to die peacefully in my sleep, and then it's guys, and it's like they take a clip from like a video game of like guys is going crazy with fighting the bad guy and going to fight until the end. It kind of reminds me of that.
It's this moment,
Retsy's heartbroken right now.
Yeah, this made me really. This is where I got really angry because they had spent the entirety of Edge of Conquest 1 like building him as a character, like building him like. Even throughout this book, because he's in the lead of the mission, you get a sense that you're like, oh, like he's really being pushed into like this new role as a leader. He's becoming a better warrior. He's got a really good grip on using the Force already, but like he's becoming like slowly being sharpened into this like the hero. Like you really do get a sense that he's like the next Luke.
Mm-hmm.
And with the title of the New Jedi Order, your mind's like, oh, like you like low-key think he's the main character of the series at some points. And then this happens, and then you realize that it's just Jason left. And you're like...
your boy.
And I was like, are you serious? Because I read on Wikipedia in passing after I read this book that like Jason kind of is slated to become the main character, even though there's like a lot of central storylines, but he's kind of viewed as like the main, like, I don't know, carrier of the story now. And I'm like, no, take it back. Let's redo this. It should be the other way around. And I will say that like Jason does really like, he redeems himself some towards the end, but like they had the perfect main character. They had Luke 2.0, and then this happens.
Little Annie.
So he dies. So where does he die in this specific book? Is it like at the end of the book, or we're like a quarter way in, or
60% of the way, like 2/3 of the way in?
Dang, dude.
Ooh,
oh yeah, there's more. Trust me, there's more gut punches
in this book.
Oh, that's
dude, it was just like gut punch after gut punch. So it was funny. Now keep in mind, like 3 or 4 Jedi have died already,
right?
Like up to I don't remember, maybe more, but like each one of and they took time on each one of their deaths too. So it wasn't like, and this person died off screen. It's like it's just loss after loss after loss, and it's like this group of like teenagers and young adults. And like they're against insurmountable odds, and they're doing really well because they're Jedi. But like you really feel for the characters, and then this happens, and you're like, "Oh, there's no way. There's no way they win." Like, and I did. So when I was reading or listening to the documentary series of plot. Side note: there is a documentary series on YouTube about the making of this series, and it's really well done. I think I mentioned it last week, but there's multiple parts, and they're taken from interviews that they had with the authors and from con panels and stuff like that. And it really paints kind of from the early conception of the series through when the books are being released with the different authors. And I remember Troy Denning, the author of this, he loved Anakin as a character, especially after the other book. And when he got the ultimatum from the continuity team that Anakin had to die, his act of defiance was developing him even more as a character up to his death. So like he was like, all right, if you want me to kill him, I'm going to make him the most likable character I possibly can before he dies. And it shows, because like you get him really coming in himself as a young man on Yavin, right? Saves Tahiri, grows more into his understanding in the Force, and then in the book after that, he has this budding like love thing, and you're like, oh, dude, he's like becoming a young man. Like this is sick, right? And then now he's in this leadership role in this book, and then he freaking dies, and like Tahiri. So we might as well move into the aftermath. Okay, so Jason manages to track down and kill the Voxen Queen, but is captured in the process. Okay.
Sounds about right.
Basically. So Jaina falls to the dark side. So there's one point. So this rocks her. Like the way that they convey grief in this series is intense. So there's a moment where they're in a fight, and Jaina, like, she starts fighting off against facing off against these Yuzon Vong, and she's just like, she's enraged, so much so that almost involuntarily she starts spitting force lightning at Yuzon Vong. Like she's like full dark side, like
so
out of control.
It's not the yellow stuff, the Jedi. What is it called?
No.
What is the yellow?
I don't remember.
Jedi
like
forces?
Force of Justice or Judgment of Light or something. But like, no, like she fully is like out of control of her rage and her anger and her sorrow, and she's like she starts burning Yuzon Vong to a crisp for a second.
Does she yell unlimited power at any point?
No, she's like crying and yelling. It's sad. So anyways, she regains control of herself. They're able to secure a ship and get the survivors out. They end up actually stealing the ship that Nam Anor came in, because he ended up stripping most of the crew to fight for him, and so they kind of left it unguarded. So they end up stealing that ship. But there's another like chapter or two with them, but basically that's kind of the end of the arc of the mission. So only like 9 of them make it out alive. They end up it's one of the it's the meme, the Thanos meme, like we accomplished it, but what did it cost? And he's like, everything. It's kind of that. It's like, you did it, but it costs way too much to accomplish this goal. So while this is all happening, the other Jedi are able to save the hostages with New Republic help. And then Borsk Thalia tries to suck up to the Jedi in an effort to save his crumbling political career. This ends up being Vicky Sesh's fall from grace as well. She's just the worst, y'all. She's just a backstabbing, like, out for herself, out to have a position in the new Yuzon Vong government, betrays the New Republic 2 months into the war. She's from Kuat. Like, she's the worst. So she ends up overplaying her hand in her anti-Jedi action, and Thalia basically kicks her out of the government. So she ends up as a normal operative with a plan, because she's lost her position. The Yuzon Vong are like basically about to discard her, and she's like, no, I can redeem this. So she comes up with a plan to steal, or kidnap, as one might say, Ben Skywalker, who is being cared for at this time by Leia while Luke and Mara are off doing Jedi things.
Was this last book or this book that he was born?
Last book.
So how old is he at this point then?
He's still an infant.
Okay.
I mean, very, like, so young that he can't talk.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not been super long since the last book, but you'll notice that there are jumps in between the books that aren't clearly defined. It's just like some time passes. So when Anakin dies, Leia is able to sense it, and y'all, it's so sad. She shuts down.
Leia, you said?
Yeah, like, because she senses, because she has the Force, she's able to sense Anakin's death immediately, and she goes into shock, and like she like shuts down completely, and like she's overcome with grief. Like it's so sad. That's one of the things these books have done really well, is like they'll hit you with a tragedy, and then they will straight up sit in the aftermath of the tragedy. It's not like Alderaan blows up and she's like, no, and then like trash compactor. It's like, no, like you sit with these people as they have to go through their lives being shattered,
which is good writing, because it makes you experience what the characters are experiencing.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons, if I'm being honest, it's one of the reasons why, like, I haven't engaged with some of the canon content recently, because I'm like, there was a part of me that really welcomed the depth and the heaviness that this series brings to Star Wars in a way that I hadn't personally experienced before, and I'm like, I gotta do this like singularly. Like, I don't want to experience another type of Star Wars until I'm done with this, because like it has my full attention now. So anyways, So she shuts down, and she's basically like, why in the heck have I wasted my life in service to this horrible government that does nothing while everything falls apart? It's like a really serious moment. So she refuses to have anything to do with Phalia and his government as he's suddenly coming around to be a full supporter of the Jedi. Well, then the Yuuzhan Vong show up, and the battle for Coruscant and the last stand of the New Republic takes the last quarter or so of the book. So the New Republic has caused massive damage to the Yuuzhan Vong, including ambushing and wiping out a fleet that was likely staging for this battle, but the Yuuzhan Vong still have more ships. In the chapters from the War Master's point of view, you basically realize that like the plan that they use in the book for Coruscant is like the plan C, because the New Republic had already foiled plans A and B. But basically, this plan involves approaching Coruscant, screened in front by a fleet of refugee ships. So basically, they use them as human being shields. They're living shields. The refugees have control of the communication systems, but not their engines. And like, there's a moment in the book where the New Republic they blow up the first like one or two of the ships, and then they realize, and they're like, oh my gosh, what have we done? Like, there's this moment of shock when they realize what's happening. So the New Republic Navy basically mutinies rather than fire through the refugee fleet. So their fleet hits. So they had this big minefield in orbit around Coruscant. So they hit the minefield, and they basically turn the minefield off rather than let it chew the refugees up. They actually end up turning the mines back on when the Yuuzhan Vong, who are following them, end up making it through, which inflicts a ton of damage. But the refugees end up making it all the way through and start crashing into the planetary shield and being sacrificed in mass until the shield breaks. And then they literally start just diving into the surface. So the New Republic Navy still causes some intense damage to the fleet, but it quickly becomes clear that they don't have enough ships and that the Yuuzhan Vong are going to take the planet. There's not nearly enough ships to evacuate everyone, but people still try in the midst of the chaos. And it's a scene of like innocent people are being sacrificed to just cause damage. People are trying to flee and they're being shot out of the sky by coral skippers. Like, refugees are being attacked indiscriminately. The surface of Coruscant is in flames. Buildings are crumbling. Like, it's really sad. Like, it's your classic like city being taken by an enemy force and people are losing their lives scene, which is one of the images here, the fall of Coruscant. This is kind of what it looked like from the surface. So Leia and Han wait too long to go, and they have to push through some crowds to reach the Falcon, only to find that it's been sabotaged because someone cut the lines that were pumping in coolant, and all the reactor coolant has drained out. That's someone being Vicky Sesh, who also attempts to kidnap Ben at that moment from them. So she does that by using a child that she found that looks just like Anakin in the face and distracting Han and Leia with him while she takes Ben from Leia. Tell me that's not ruthless.
Ruthless, but still a good plan on her side of, from her point of view.
she doesn't know he's dead. That's the thing. Oh, but dang. It just, So it's, So anyways, or maybe she does. I don't remember, but I just know that when that unfolds, I was like, that's a slap in the face to Leia. Like, he looks so much like Anakin that Leia like stops in her tracks. So anyways, C-3PO and Ben Skywalker get separated from them in the hustle and bustle. And they end up aboard a Starliner full of refugees. And they end up making it to orbit, and Han and Leia are forced to go back to the Imperial Palace. So the Yuzong Vong capture the liner to get Ben for themselves, but Lando and his droids end up leading an assault on the ship and quickly remove the hijackers. This is kind of a cool moment for 3PO because he apparently drugs Ben so he falls asleep. So he just puts him to sleep so he doesn't make any noise, and then mimics Ben's cries with his voice box to lead Vicky and the Yuzong Vong warriors away from Ben, which is kind of cool.
That's cool.
Unfortunately, Mara gets shot down during the battle, and Luke follows her down. The two are at a defense station somewhere in the city before Han and Leia come and get them out of there with the, I can't remember. I think they use the Falcon. They get it fixed or something like that, but they end up getting them out. So Leia comes out of her shock before the end and transmits the following message to the galaxy. And I wanted to read it because it's like Independence 4th of July Day level stuff. So
she
broadcast it to the whole galaxy. She says, "This is not the end. 2 years ago, the Yuzong Vong entered our galaxy. They came not as friends and equals, though we would gladly have welcomed them as such, but as thieves and conquerors. They saw a galaxy at peace and mistook the strength of our conviction for frailty of arms, the wisdom of compromise for the timidity of cowards. They attacked without provocation or mercy, slaying billions of our citizens, enslaving entire worlds and sacrificing millions of beings to appease the bloodlust of their imaginary gods. They believed we would be easily defeated because they believed we would yield without a fight. They were wrong. We fought back at Dubrillion, Ithor, the Black Bantha, Borealis, or Borealis? Anyways, and Corellia. We have fought back at every leg of the way from the outer rim to the core. We have lost untold numbers of loved ones, my own son Anakin, and my husband's dear friend Chewbacca among them. And we are battling in the skies over Coruscant itself. We are still fighting. Soon the enemy will be on our rooftops, in our homes, roaming in the dark underlayers of our city. To those able to evacuate, and to those trapped behind, I say the same thing I would tell my twins, were I able to reach them behind enemy lines. Keep fighting. This is not the end. Twice already, Jedi-led forces have decimated Yuzong Vong fleets, and we enter each battle with new weapons and better tactics. We have prevailed against ruthless enemies before, against Palpatine, against Thrawn, against the Shiruk, which was from another book series. This is a war we know how to win. Keep fighting until you can fight no longer, then exhaust the enemy chasing you and turn and fight some more. Keep fighting. I promise you we will prevail. So, after all that, the remaining heroes escape on the Falcon. Frelia, who could have left with them, stays behind at the palace because he has no interest in living with the title of the being who lost Coruscant. He stays at his desk and demands that he will only surrender Coruscant to the War Master, in the idea that he wants to get him there in person. The Yuzong Vong in the room bring a Villip communicator forward, and the War Master chuckles at Frelia. He tells him that he has played Dejarik and thinks that the Kenton Death Strider Gambit is the only good move. So basically, there's like Felia's trying to play Dejarik, and Savong La is like, "You're not going to get me with that move," essentially. So then the Yuzong Vong kill Frelia, which sets off a bomb that Frelia had rigged to a life signs monitor, completely destroying the palace and killing several thousand Yuzong Vong in the process. Which is like, Drew, you were like, "Is that the beast or whatever?" That's Frelia about to go down in a blaze of glory.
Okay.
So the book ends with Ben being saved. Yeah. The book ends with Ben being saved, Leia sensing her kids are in trouble, but knowing that they have to get out of it themselves, and Coruscant being lost to the galaxy's greatest threat to date. The end.
Fun.
I told y'all.
So, just to remind me, Jason and Jaina were younger than Anakin, right?
No, they were older.
How old are they?
They're like 1 or 2 years older than Anakin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we lose a bunch of Jedi. We lose Anakin. and we lose Coruscant itself.
Coruscant is there's tons of people on it. That's like...
Did we lose Coruscant in Force Awakens?
No, that was...
what city, what planet was that?
Something with an H.
Hosnian
system.
Hosnian Prime.
The whole Hosnian system, yeah. So, yeah. But this was the book that I finished it, and I was like...
All right.
So, everything's depressing.
So just think, like, if you read these when they were originally coming out, you have to wait for the next book to come.
I would have lost my crap, dude. At
least they were getting released, every
3 months?
Few months or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you didn't have to wait too long.
Yeah, but this is the point where I was like,
show us again how big this book is.
How many pages is it?
It is.
Keep in mind that the paperback books are
always thicker,
longer than like hardcover books. So
hold on, because there's an excerpt at the end. There's an excerpt at the end of this from the next book.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, 605 pages.
Oh dang, that's still like 500 pages.
It's still like 500 of a normal book size.
Dang.
Yeah, I mean, like this is the text size.
Right? Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I will say though, this was one that like I really hated putting down. Like it grips you the entire way through, and it's honestly so like one of the things that I read on Reddit before I started this series was like, and I think I may have even said this in a previous episode, but I was like, you know, the new Jedi Order books are really dark. They're like darker than most Star Wars, and like people were saying that by the time the good guys win, like you really feel like they had to earn it, and it's like more depressing. And I got through this book and I was like, yeah, no, everyone was right, because like this one was darker. It was a much darker read and a much heavier read than all the other books so far. And that's including Chewbacca's death. Like this one takes the cake as being like the most intense. So anyways, so there you go. The first 9 out of the way, 10 more to go.
So you're doing 5 and 5?
Yeah.
For the next 2 weeks? Okay.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Yep. So anyways, the story does get it gets better. But this is kind of the low point.
All right, boys. Well, we got to get to some voicemails. So is there anything else, Andrew, you want to make a comment on before we move on?
No. No, I'm exhausted. I'm tired and depressed now. But
all right, well, let's get some joy in your heart with some voicemails. So let's transition over to everyone's favorite time of every episode, voicemail time.
Give it to me. It's voicemail time. Oh yeah.
All right. Well, the streak is still alive with 1 million voicemails, and we got 9 voicemails tonight. So we got to truck along. Oh, we got to wait for this thing to go.
That's impossible.
9.
All right. First up, the first 4 are from our favorite, newest fan, Yaretsi. So let's take
heck yeah,
a listen.
Hey, Empire Radio. This is Yaretsi, and this is week 1 of me trying to convince you guys to go read Jango Fett comics by telling you a cool fact that happens in them. So during the Battle of Galadron, Jango Fett and the true Mandalorians are fighting against the Jedi. And there's a point in the battle where Jango Fett looks over and one of his friends gets killed by a Jedi. And so Jango Fett, oh my goodness, he kills 5 whole Jedi. Not with weapons, not with any blasters or anything, but with his bare hands. He was so violent in these comics. It is so crazy, but they're so good. Y'all should definitely read them. Bye.
All right, thank you. Well, she said this is week 1. Like, don't spoil the whole story for us.
Yeah, come on.
And we can't promise that we're going to read it.
Jedi
But
must
Andrew
suck, dude.
has talked about wanting to do comics in the future, but that could be 2 years from now based on all the other stuff he has planned for us. So
yeah, I will say that in the Republic Commando novels, they talk about Jango as being like 10 times more of a BA than he is in the movies.
Well, yeah, he doesn't do anything. Really, he gets his head chopped
But
off.
like
That's
they talk about
it.
him being like he was the Mandalore at one point and like led the people. So like that would be very interesting to see. But it's cool to see him and see other characters like Boba like really get their moments like that kind of live up to their legends.
Right.
So it's cool.
But yeah.
Also, these Jedis.
Yeah. Were they weak or were they good or what?
They were masters,
right?
Was
it basically Jason Solo or what?
The sad thing about that is like he gets really powerful. You'll see it. It's just his attitude. And I don't. Anyways.
All right. Well, thank you for number 1, but Yurechi has number 2 here. So I think I'm forgetting like we have so many voicemails. I can't remember what all these are about anymore. So hopefully, I think I know what this next one is. I think it's for me, but let's take a listen.
Hey Empire Radio, this is Yaretsi back with the second voicemail, and this one's just for Jeremiah, who's probably listening to this while he's editing the voicemails into the video. But anyway, in past episodes that I've listened to, Jeremiah states quite frequently that Maul fails at everything he does, and that's just not true. Ooh. He successfully killed Qui-Gon, successfully obtained new legs. He successfully became the ruler of Mandalore. Ooh, if you forgot about that little fact. He also, if you read the comics, he successfully escaped from the cell that Palpatine put him in.
Yep.
And he's probably done a lot more than that, like create Crimson Dawn and stuff. But don't ever say that about Maul again, because he's successfully done a lot of things. Bye.
Get him! All
right, well, here's my rebuttal. I'm going to stick with my guns.
No. Oh, here we go.
He was sent to kill both Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, and he only got half the job done, if you know what I mean. So he failed at that. You said that he successfully got legs. Well, the only legs that he got were those spider legs. He needed the help of the Night Sisters to give him better legs, so he couldn't do it that himself. He needed someone else's help.
Yeah, but he did keep himself alive by pure hatred.
That's true.
Because he failed at the previous thing that he was supposed to do.
Also true.
But he
did become the ruler of Mandalore, you're right. But why was he doing that? Because he wanted to overthrow Palpatine. Did he do that? No. So he still failed.
But he's
he escaped from prison, but what did that accomplish? What did he accomplish?
What about Crimson Dawn?
My thing is...
Kira took that over.
My thing is, like, did he fail because he was written to fail?
Well, yeah, that's his character. His character is written by writers to be someone who fails at everything.
But if he wasn't constrained by the writers, do you think Maul could have won Jeremiah? I think so.
Ooh, no, that makes no sense. That makes no sense.
Don't think about it.
I am thinking about it. So sorry, Yaretsi, I don't accept your arguments. I think I'm still right that Maul fails at everything.
It's from
a
certain point of view.
Yeah.
He does succeed in certain spots, but then he fails ultimately.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. You can't say, "Oh, I killed Qui-Gon, therefore my plan was successful." No, he was supposed to kill both of them. He was supposed to stop this thing. Like he did, he failed. I'm sorry. He just did. You guys on Team Yaretsi? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, I'm on Team Maul, so.
Well, if you want to side with the failure, go right.
I see it from both points of view.
All right. Thank you, Yaretsi, I like being challenged by people like that. So thank you for that. But if you have more rebuttals, we can keep this going.
Let's go.
All right. Number 3 from Yaretsi.
Hey Empire Radio, this is Yaretsi back with the third voicemail. And this time I have a question. And the question is, what are your top 3 most emotional Star Wars moments? Not necessarily deaths, but more like what you felt in like the moment or how you feel about it now. Like the moment I can't swim in Andor. That's definitely one of mine because we don't know if he's dead or not.
Oh, we do.
But when that happened,
Boy's
I was
bad,
like
bro.
sobbing, and I was like, "You escaped the prison with Cassian. You can't swim." I still remember that moment where I was. Anyway,
The button.
I'll probably tell you a second one in the next voicemail I send. So bye.
Well, Andrew has his one fresh on his mind.
Yeah.
But emotional moments. So
top 3.
I think for like my top moments would be a lot of same things. I think the reason why my top moments are what they are is because they had a major emotional reaction.
Yeah.
So just like, Ahsoka versus Vader and Kanan's death and all those type of things. But one that that's not on my list I'll just mention would be, for some reason, I always get teary-eyed in the episode of Rebels. I think it's season 3, when Kanan is training Sabine with the Darksaber, and she's letting all of her emotion out, telling her story about how she failed her people. I get teary-eyed every single time watching that scene because you finally get to see what her pain is from and why she is what she's doing, and all that stuff. So that's an emotional moment for me, at least. But what do you guys? Any other?
Kanan's death for sure. I would say the ending of Return of the Jedi. Like starting from where Luke flips and like cuts Vader's hand off, but then he comes back and he's like, no, I'm a Jedi like my father before me. And then that whole thing through like when he's like being shocked, like I forgot how like hard John Williams went in that moment. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so sad. But then you see the turn in Vader. I would say that's definitely one of them. Freaking the Ewok death scene.
Wicked.
It gets me every freaking time, dude. I don't know why. It gets me every time. Anytime the Force theme is used in a really impactful way, it's my favorite motif. So that gets me every time. Obi-Wan. You were my brother, Anakin.
I have the high ground. Oh.
No, I mean his whole like
destroy the Sith, not join them.
Well, same scene. The high ground scene.
That was emotional. I mean,
you're going down a path.
There's a lot of emotional moments in these books that, especially, I would say, like especially Chewie's death and like seeing Han unravel and seeing like the power couple that I thought had this like super good relationship after all of these books that I read. Like they like. You think that they're gonna like split up or whatever. Yeah, there's some.
Drew.
Well, one that's like fresh on my mind is when Han died in The Force Awakens.
Yeah, that was a good. I love that scene.
Yeah,
that's a good scene. But then also like the reaction from Chewie.
Yeah. Yep.
I remember watching that in theaters, and I'm like, dude, this is what really happened. Is this crazy? But then like I watched it today, and I was like, oh, like he like I'm gonna kill everyone, anything around me. Like he just started popping off. He shot Ben like right away in the stomach, like like
he literally started popping off.
Yeah. So like that part was pretty emotional. Like watching it again, and I'm like, I don't know if my 3-year-old should be watching this yet. Like this
a son killing his dad
might be a little early.
Gotta teach him that grief early.
Might be a little early.
And this is what happens when you go to the dark side. Don't do it.
So that one, I can't swim. That one.
Oh yeah.
You can probably still go on YouTube and watch my reaction video to that. That was
I mean, I would say
rough.
we can because it's on the internet. We can
Yeah.
watch it whenever we want to.
Yeah, that one was really rough. And then a good emotion is when Maul showed up. And so
Oh, yeah.
that was a very emotional,
Exciting, emotional moment.
Yeah, everything in my body was excited. Like, it was, my whole insides were like trying to come out. It was so good. So, yeah.
All right.
All right, cool.
And on that note,
all right, so this next one has her next moment that she's mentioned for emotional moment is a spoiler for Bad Batch season 3 series finale. So I requested that Andrew take his things off, but he's like, I want to leave him on, so we'll see what he does. So let's listen to
Jared. He was very persistent about not spoiling it for me. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
I mean, you should watch it. But...
here you go.
All right, let's take a listen.
Hey, Empire Radio. So I'm back with the fourth voicemail. And in my last voicemail, I said I'd explain a second one that I had. And this one's probably a lesser known one, but it still brings me to tears. And it's in season 3 of The Bad Batch, episode 15. The cavalry has arrived. And it's when Hunter, Crosshair, and Wrecker are being conditioned into those special soldiers by Hemlock. And they take Hunter out of the stasis or like electrical thing that he was in, and he has a short conversation with Hemlock, and then Hemlock puts him back under the thing, and oh my god, you can hear Hunter screaming. That moment is so dark. Like, there was no way this was a kid's show. I was crying from some earlier stuff from that episode, and when that happened, I just remember breaking down, because I think it was the first time that I actually heard like a grown man in Star Wars screaming from torture like he did. Like, he was screaming bloody murder. I recently actually watched that episode. It was hard. Anyway, bye.
Yes, Reggie, that was a very emotional finale, so we agree. Drew, any comments?
No, it was pretty intense.
Right. Come back, Andrew, come back. Just like the rescue boats in Titanic. Come back. Start blowing a whistle. Yes, Darth Jar Jar marrying Ventress was a crazy, crazy scene. Yep.
That was my favorite moment, actually. Of season 3
right.
of Bad Batch.
Thank you, Yaretsi, for the 4 voicemails. It's always a pleasure. But we got a bunch more from everybody else. And so next up is from Night Wolf from the Discord. So let's take a listen.
Hello, Empire Radio. This is Gio, aka Night Wolf from Discord. I used to be in the Discord back a couple years ago. Then a lot of life happened, so I probably was inactive for a while. But I'm back now, trying to listen to the podcast again, and got to catch up to about 100 some plus episodes.
Ooh.
So I got plenty of time to catch up. I just was listening to the EU with Andrew. And can we just say, rest in peace, Chewie, and for how epic it is to get, to say you go out by being crushed by a moon. I mean, that's some high level, intensity right there. But then it also sparked a thought in my head about for the sequels of, like, when we know, spoilers also, that Han was killed by his son Kylo Ren, Ben Solo. But what if Han didn't die first, but either like Chewie or Leia was killed beforehand? How do you think Han would have reacted, and how the story from that moment would have changed as far as for the whole sequels? Love the show, you guys. Glad to have some time to catch back up. May the Force be with you.
And you as well.
All right. Well, thank you for getting reconnected with the podcast and the Discord. Hopefully we can catch up on all those episodes. But yes, what would happen if Chewie or Leia died? And say, well, you got from this story, Han had a huge emotional reaction to the death of Chewie. So, like, I would see that would probably be a thing where he would just spiral down.
I don't know, though, because, like, okay, if Chewie died, yes. If Leia died, like, I don't know enough about their relationship between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens to be able to gauge. Like, I can say, dude, I can say EU Han, if he loses Leia, dude,
game over.
I don't even want to.
What would you say it was depression, or do you think he'd get enraged and he
would have gone on a killing spree. Like, he would have thrown himself at as many Yuzan Bong as he could until he probably ended up killing himself in action. Like, just from like, not directly, but, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just being in so many battles that eventually he just dies. Like, he would have gone off the deep end.
Right.
But canon wise, I mean, like, that's a really interesting thought experiment of, like, what would have happened if Chewie had died. I think.
Well, what, like, really happens when his kid dies?
Huh?
Like, if his kid died, do you think something would happen in that situation?
If Ben Solo died?
No, I'm saying, like, in the books, one of his kids end up dying. Do you think he would have had the same reaction as if Chewie died, or no?
One of his kids does die.
Anakin.
No, that's what I'm saying. Did he have the same reaction?
Well, you don't know.
Oh, well, okay, yeah, that's fair.
That's for another book.
No, I want to.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I will say that is specifically addressed, so we will get to that.
But I don't know. It's hard to say. It'd be cool because if Han and Leia are both alive, they could work together to try and save Kylo earlier. But
I think it would have been a really cool moment for his character to, like, have to weigh, like, the monster that his son has become and killing his best friend versus, like, loving him enough to want to save him even after the fact. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That would have been really, honestly. Why do we keep having ideas on this podcast that should have been? We're not going there. Anyways.
Well, I mean, doesn't he technically come back to save him?
No, we don't really know what that was.
You can argue yes, but you can argue no.
It's just like the memory of his good father. Like,
maybe it could have been Leia. We don't know.
Like, even though Leia just died, like, she's still, like, hanging on the edge of the ancestral plane or whatever. I don't know what you want to call it.
Yeah.
Ancestral. Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a pretty cool thought. Maybe a cool what if they ever do a what if series. But
yeah.
If they do a what if, they're probably not going to do that specific scene. But it'd be cool. I don't know. Let us know in the comments, anyone on Spotify or YouTube, what you think would happen if Chewie died instead of Han in Episode 7.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, next up. Well, thank you, Nightwolf. Next up is Darth Organa. So let's take a listen.
Hey, Empire Radio. Darth Organa in the Discord. Sorry, it's been a while. I'm currently working on moving. Minneapolis was actually the top of my list, and I decided that it's a little too cold and not enough mountains for me. So I am currently working on going to Boise.
Oh,
very different from where I currently live in Southern California, but I think I'll enjoy it because I hate the people here. Andrew can probably contribute to that. But anyways, I had a question, and I wanted to know, what was your guys' favorite episode to work on or record? For me, my favorite episode was the Death Troopers, I think it was, with the zombies. That was the best video I've ever listened to. And by the way, I love the 3-hour videos. Keep them rolling. I am not complaining at all. You guys said it like 3 times. I hope this doesn't turn into another 3-4 hour video for the March Madness episode 1, but I loved it. It was great. Good job, Andrew, on the books.
Thank you.
You did a good job. I'm actually able to follow along. sometimes I have an issue with that. But thank you guys. It's great hearing all your voices, and I'll catch you next time.
See, Jeremiah?
I
right,
think
thank you.
that we should have a voicemail from him every week,
Yeah.
honestly.
Well, here's the thing. He always is doing it while he's driving and getting in and out of his vehicle. So it's like there's always that background information.
No, but thank you so much for the kind words. I'm really happy to hear that.
A lot of people love that 4-hour, 12-minute episode, our Halloween special from 2023, I believe it was.
I just want you to know that I had such a hard time determining what to leave in and what to take out. And
you took stuff out of that one? Oh, okay.
I did.
I thought you just sat there and read the book straight through.
No, but that's why it ended up being that long.
Well, I also think it was that long too because I also read it too. So I'm gonna help.
So you were talking, adding your own commentary.
Yeah.
You guys have no idea how fuming I was under my composed face, how long it was going.
Jeremiah,
it was like 1 o'clock in the morning.
I hate to tell you, I could tell.
Yeah, it wasn't that.
So,
but
as hidden as
anyway, his question: favorite episodes that we've done. The blind ranking episodes both of those were really fun to do.
They really were.
We got to do some more of those, but we got to find time to do that. Maybe sometime over the summer we can get another one of those going on. But top fives are always fun. More the merrier. So like when it's just Drew and I, it goes pretty quick. But like when we get like 3 of us or 4 of us, like it's a lot of fun. Just getting a lot more conversation and more variety. Book reviews are a lot of fun. The High Republic books I enjoy talking about.
I really enjoy the E with Andrew. Oof.
What'd you say, Drew?
Not the last couple High Republic books, but
what?
Keep going.
Anyways, I always love the EU videos or the EU episodes. They're so much freaking work, but I enjoy bringing the aspects of Star Wars that I've fallen in love with to the table. Especially for 2 people that like have genuinely never experienced them before, because the average Star Wars fan knows all of this stuff already.
I think the average fan knows this stuff already. I'd say less than 10%. Like
the current.
There's a lot more people that like the EU than I think people realize.
Well, I realize that, but most people who like the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, even then, still didn't read the books. I feel like reading the books is a very small percentage of the fandom.
It's strange because I keep getting the sense that it's bigger than we think in my research, but you never know. You never know.
Because I feel like most Star Wars fans are just casual fans. They just watch the movies, maybe some of the shows, but like to watch everything and then also read books. Like I think the books.
It's so funny to me because like I've gotten to the point where I like books more than I like not all the movies, but like I like the medium of reading more generally than watching movies now because you get so much more context.
Right.
But anyways,
I do think though, like our current fan base, a lot of them don't know enough about the EU.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoy it, because like,
and I think that's one of the reasons why they enjoy it too.
Yeah, because like I know that not everyone has the time to like read 19 books.
Yeah, no.
So here's the condensed story version.
It's like I've read 19 books in 5 years. You've read 19 books in like 6 months.
6 months.
But I'm super proud of my 19 books. Like,
you from where you started, that's a big deal.
Came from.
I remember you like vehemently like I'm not reading Star Wars.
I'm going to skip half this podcast episode because I didn't want to read a book.
But now look at you. You're just a regular old Star Wars bookworm.
Yep, and I have
3 books lined
I have
up.
books lined up already. Like I get Audible credits ahead of time, and just like currently right now they're doing a 99 cents for 3-month thing, Drew, if you want to get some. But
cancel and resubmit.
Well, that's not how that works, but
yeah, I've already got how many books lined up? now that I'm towards the end of the EU, it's like another 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, at least 17.
All right.
So we'll see.
Yeah, for me, the book ones are really fun between EU or just us breaking down a book, especially if it's a good book. Like, is it one High Republic book, Dark?
The Eye of Darkness, book
Eye
4.
of Darkness. That book was so good.
Might be probably my favorite Star Wars book of all time.
That was a fun book to break down.
Just having Grace on doing these High Republic books is a lot of fun. Like, she gives a lot of great insight in these and good discussion. So I'm excited for the books. The final book is coming out in a few months. So like, I'm excited to get the conclusion to the story, and Grace will be there for that. So
yeah, so those ones are fun, but also just breaking down the shows, going back to our roots. Those ones were.
Which Andrew, when we did our 500th episode, I went back and kind of like got a tally of like category, how many top fives we did, this and that. 1/3 of our 300 episodes are episode breakdowns.
Oh, that makes total sense.
Like, it's just kind of crazy to think about.
That makes total sense.
A third of our content. But
yeah.
Yaretsi asked if we were going to read the new Bad Batch book that's coming out this summer. Maybe eventually. It's not on our list. It might be a couple years if we get to it. I don't know. We got a lot of lists already lined up for what we want to do. So, but
yeah,
I'm sure maybe someday Addie will send in a voicemail and yell at us to get it read. But
we will probably read it at some point.
All right. Well, thank you, Darth Organa, for that. It's great to hear from you. All right. Next up, we have one from Sky King. So let's take a listen.
Hey, Empire Radio, it's Sky King here again. Got a couple things. First off, Yaretsi. Don't get me wrong, I love Clink. I've loved Clink since he was on the Bad Batch. He's great. He's adorable. But Gonk gives you ammo, like in OG Battlefront. Gonk gives the Bad Batch electricity. And Gonk is an overall pleasure to have around and to hang out with. And that's why Bad Batch keeps Gonky and not Clink. But because I like Clink, and because Empire Radio is a place of peace and a place of order, I will lay down my weapons of war and I will fight no more. How does that sound?
Ooh.
All right. Secondly, I've got a question. With Major League Baseball opening day tomorrow, and we are in the presence of a Minnesota youth baseball legend in Jeremiah, if you played on an MLB team, what would your walk-up song be as you were coming up to the plate? This would be mine, Victim of Love, by the Eagles. It fires me up and gets me ready to smoke dingers, as the kids say. Maybe.
All right, thank you, Sky King. Yaretzi's in the chat, and she just said, okay, truce then. So we got that beef settled. Awesome. I was afraid she was going to get all riled up and she was going to send in another voicemail, like, pushing you again. But the truce has been established, so it's good. Peace. And apparently I am a youth baseball legend here in Minnesota because
you were on the news.
I hit one home run in high school, and it happened to be on High School Sports Rep that night. So that's my one claim of fame. Back when I had shoulder length hair, everybody.
Bring it back.
Bring it back, bro.
Bring it back.
So much work, dude. So much work to do. I don't know how people with long hair can do it. But what would my walking up to the plate music be? I don't know. I haven't thought about this since high school when I played. So I don't know. Something from my high school years was probably, I don't know.
You got to pick something. You got to pick something.
Bro.
From back then?
What's one song What's one song that pumps you up?
That pumps me up? Okay, I don't get pumped up. That's a weird, I don't get pumped up ever. Honestly, I think a cool one would be like Grand Admiral Thrawn's theme. That would be a cool one. Organ music. Right. I don't know. But I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, I don't hype myself up ever for anything. I just live. I don't know. Do you guys have? He didn't ask you guys, but do you guys have a?
I've always like. You ever like play like the WWE wrestling games and you
No.
like create a theme song? No. Okay. Well, that was a fun conversation.
You know, what I think would be a good one? The Downfall of Us All by Day to Remember.
That would be dope.
That's a good one.
Or Kendrick Monster TV. Monster?
Bro,
that would slap.
All right, you guys about to go on your thing, musical
DNA,
rants.
Dude. Freaking DNA, come on. That song. I was listening to Kendrick at work, and that song came on, and I was like, I kind of want to flip this desk over. I'm not gonna lie,
bro.
But there's a few
Miles
K-pop
sings
songs too.
That part in the car all the time. Monster, he'll just yell it.
Wait, really?
Yes, it's hilarious, bro. I gotta record on one of these.
Yeah, I've been on a Kendrick kick lately. So,
dope, bro.
But yeah, I would say like A Day to Remember, something from them.
That'd be dope. Just da, and then everyone sings that. Let's go, and then you walk out, bro.
That would be sick.
That'd be dope.
Yeah, that's a throwback to high school Andrew with Skater here.
Me too. All the above what you just said. When my hair was down to my shoulders.
Dang.
Yep.
We all had those days.
All right, cool. Well, thank you. That was Sky King. I think, yeah, I got so many. Okay, we got two more left. Next up is Darth Fart. So let's take a listen.
Hey, Empire Radio. Darth Fart here with an interesting question. If you could shoot 5 different liquids from your fingers, what would they be?
What?
And I guess if you wanted to, like, you could choose a sauce, but I don't know. That just seems weird to me. But my choices were, I'm going to go with water, because that's just, you need water at some point. 2, I'll go with black coffee. 3, I'll go vanilla protein shake.
Right.
4, I'll go sugar-free Red Bull. And 5, I'll go with gasoline. That would just be amazing. That would save me so much money. What would your 5 picks be? Let me know. Darth Fart out. May the force be with you.
This is the most
First of all, the name, you haven't had.
I feel like you've been on. We've played Darth Fart before.
No,
it's a fairly common.
That's
guy.
Just so. Oh, this is such a good name. And then the energy from the name just was so well rewarded with the energy of the question. It's so good.
That's fair. No, he used to like say his real name. I was like, bro, don't hide your Darth Fart.
I don't even remember his real name anymore.
I don't either. It's Darth Fart now, bro.
Dude, coffee and Red Bull for him though. Dude's caffeinated.
Both of those are probably on my fingers.
I would say water. Like if I could get if I could like specifically get flash brew coffee, like cold coffee instead of cold brew, because it's better. I would do flash brew. I would do Baja Blast.
Oh, bro.
I would do.
Bro.
I would do. Mexican Sprite, because that Sprite is superior. It's so good.
I hate Sprite. So,
and then I would do.
You got 2 more fingers?
No, I got 1 more finger.
Oh. The gasoline one's kind of slaps.
Yeah, but I don't have a car anymore.
But would you have a car still if you didn't have to pay for gas?
No, because you'll have to pay for insurance.
Yeah,
people don't know how to drive.
Well, that's
what's a really useful liquid?
Like soap, like liquid soap. Like when you're washing dishes, you don't have to grab the. Yeah.
Like
you said, if you want to add sauces too, like if you want barbecue sauce.
Oh yeah. What's your favorite kind of sauce? Chick-fil-A sauce.
Chick-fil-A sauce is so good. Dave's hot chicken, Dave's sauce. That's really good sauce too. But would I use that? Would I need it enough?
I would use ketchup because Miles
maybe barbecue
goes through
sauce.
Like a bottle every 2 days. Not even kidding.
Okay. Maybe I would do like, I don't know, like green tea or something. Shake it up. I don't know. I just know, but coffee, water, and Baja Blast would be 3 of mine for sure. So, Jeremiah, what about you?
Well, this was hard because I only drink water. Like literally, I've had maybe 2 Gatorades and a couple juices and lemonade in the past
5 years,
6 months.
If you're gonna party, if you're gonna live on the wild side,
well, lemonade is my splurge thing. If I never go out to eat, but if I go out to eat and I got to sit down, I get lemonade.
Okay,
that's when I'm living.
Now, do you like flavored lemonades, like mango? Mango lemonade. Come on.
No, that's just I want lemonade. Like that's what
like
I want.
Stay Fair lemonade, where they're like pulling it.
Good.
It's so good, dude.
Like, I don't know. Just
you have 4 other fingers.
So water and then lime juice, because I always put a little squirt of lime juice in my water. So
okay.
I guess that's 2.
Okay. And then lemonade.
Even though I never drink milk, I use milk for like baking. So I guess milk, but like I would only use that when I'm baking, because I hate when I buy the 16-ounce single serves of milk. I don't buy a half gallon or gallon.
So here's my question: if you choose milk, does your finger now become an udder? I don't think it's a finger anymore.
No, that's not how that works.
No, that's how that works.
I mean,
he says shoot out of your finger. He doesn't say shoot out of your.
No, what I'm saying is like, what is a finger that shoots milk if not an udder?
Okay, so then if you have your Baja Blast, is it the thing at Taco Bell when you put your cup?
No, because it's not naturally occurring in nature.
No, but
water coming out of your finger is naturally occurring.
No, but I mean, I don't know.
But like, would milk naturally occur out of nature, or would people just sell their milk?
Okay, see, we're
getting going down a path I don't want to.
We're getting into territory.
So water, lime juice.
Can't follow.
I would just do lemonade, milk, and then my last one,
Hershey's chocolate syrup.
Maybe I would do barbecue sauce, maybe, but like I don't use it that much. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Okay,
Drew.
But if you had milk, you could make your own ice cream.
Oh yeah,
that's way too much work, dude.
But
and I haven't bought ice cream in 2 years because I eat ice cream way too much. Like I can't.
2 years.
Yeah, like I used to like literally get ice cream every week. I get like.
Yeah, we
like 2 containers a week, and I'd eat them both. Like,
dude, same.
I can't do that. And I'm on my diet. I'm down 20 pounds since end of October. Like I don't need all those extra calories that do nothing for your life.
Dang.
All right.
But they make you so happy.
Water.
Okay.
A really good coffee.
Yeah.
Wesley Andrews, right out of your on tap.
Like my favorite Gesha of all time. Just always there.
Understandable.
1999 root beer.
Yep.
Or 1919 root beer.
Yep.
Dude, I had them and I totally forgot. Gas would be one of them, and then my last one.
Liquid gold, so then you could just pour gold out and then have unlimited funds for the rest of your life.
No, that's gas.
Yeah, I mean,
gold is more profitable than gas.
In this economy, no.
Yeah,
people aren't buying gold the way they are buying gas.
But you can sell your gold though.
You can sell gas.
You can sell gas. People are going to buy gas off the street way before they'll buy gold.
You go to a pawn shop, they're going to give you like $1,200 an ounce.
Why did
are you kidding me? You can't get. You guys.
But you have to you have to do something. You have to let it cool and stuff.
For $1,200 an ounce, you're not gonna just earn.
I would just fill
bowl?
up gallons of gas.
Oh my gosh, you
I would
guys!
just sell this thing.
I'm telling you guys, you guys not good with your money right now. I can tell you that right now.
But why did you pick it? You had an extra finger.
Because I just remembered it now, but now I already gave my answers. So,
dang, I forgot I had them. It's either between. It's probably Baja Blast or Dr. Pepper. It's really hard.
Ooh, Dr. Pepper.
Good DP.
Ooh, it just hits, man. On a hot day too.
Probably
ice
Baja
cold.
Blast because I already have one dark soda, so I need a light one. You know.
Oh yeah, that you got to balance that out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
I will tell you. Here's this is off topic, kind of, but my favorite beverage of all time was when I was at North Central. You do.
Oh, here we go.
You got the different flavors, right?
Yes.
So you do 50% pink lemonade. 25% Sprite. 25% Dr. Pepper.
Oh,
that is. I drink that every day.
He used to live on the wild
I
side.
know. He used to be a crazy boy. I love that none of us had alcohol.
That's a good answer.
I don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
No one needs it ever. But moving on.
That's true. You're right.
Moving on. Thank you, Darth Fart, for that stimulating question. Last up, the coup d'etat verse, of course. Garrett's back. And I realize I have not listened to this one, so hopefully it's family friendly. I don't remember, where did we leave off last week? He was getting trained by Luke. He's been excelling better at lightsaber dueling than Ben Solo. So I think that's what was last. So let's take a listen to this mystery voicemail in the coup d'etat verse.
Hey Empire Radio, it's Garrett. We're prepping for something huge. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I retrieved the N1 from the woods and assisted in scrapping the downed destroyer for weapons and armor. I'm pretty sure we're attacking the First Order, and I'm really excited to fight Empress Palpatine. Speaking of fighting, if you could choose one Force user of any affiliation to train you to fight another Force user, who would they be? I would want to be trained by Revan to fight Rey and show her what real power looks like.
That'd be freaking overkill.
That's like when I play video games, I do all the side missions, and then when I get to the final boss, it's like
you're just like OP.
It's like boring.
So who would you want to be your Force master to teach you how to fight?
Darth Plagueis. To fight Palpatine.
I would be the other way around. I feel like Palpatine was a better fighter than Plagueis was.
He beat him already. Like he killed him in his sleep. So
is it canon though?
Yes, it's canon. He says it in Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, that's true. Fact.
Qui-Gon is a good answer. For light side, dark side, I don't know.
For who though? Qui-Gon to train you for who?
Did he say who the enemy would be, or is this?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't really know. I don't know. That makes it more impossible to answer because it's like.
That's what makes it challenging.
Qui-Gon to fight most people. I don't know. Like it's hard to.
I'm searching my data banks here. I'm going back.
EU Anakin to fight.
Jason Solo.
Jason Solo.
Jason Solo to fight somebody.
I mean, Revan is a really good. Also Mace Windu, because Mace Windu, especially in Legends, is like the swords master.
Dooku, he's such a good wielder.
Yeah,
because he's considered like the best. But like for wielding,
Dooku, Clone Wars Dooku all around was just like pretty. He was a force of nature,
right? But it's like outside of dueling, like how good was he with like other force things though?
I mean, he kind of went toe to toe with Yoda.
Yeah. He got away.
I don't know if that was more so because Yoda wasn't being super aggressive, but. I got it.
Be Obi-Wan and
I got
Anakin
it. I got it.
Okay.
I want Starkiller to train me. Easy.
You just want to move Star Destroyers from space.
No, dude. Even as a duelist, like he was a superb swordsman, and I would say either Starkiller or Revan. I would want to train me, and I would want to fight
Anakin.
Who would be a good challenge? I feel like Obi-Wan would be a good one.
What about like trained by Starkiller to fight Revan?
Ooh.
Would that be a close fight or no?
So, I feel like, well, I don't know. That would be a pretty interesting fight, actually. I might pay. I would like pay to go see that, or pay for like pay-per-view or something to see that.
Pay-per-view.
I would pay for. That is UFC.
But yeah, maybe I would want to be trained by Revan to fight Vader. Ooh. That'd be a fun fight.
Trained by Anakin to fight Anakin.
Which Anakin and which Anakin?
Anakin, little Annie, to fight little Annie. Like Anakin versus like.
I thought you were gonna say trained by Anakin to fight the younglings.
Oh no, we didn't know how that.
So you want to be trained by Episode 1 Anakin to fight EU Anakin?
No, trained by Anakin. Episode 3, trained by him to end up fighting himself. But you're so good that it's like helps the playing field.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right, thank you, Garrett. And the coup d'etat. What? Okay, so remove. That's it. We're done. This is longer than last week. It's done. Time to go over some socials. Let's get out of here. Follow us. Click the link in the description. Everything there. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Just join the Discord. Send a voicemail. Send us an email. Whatever you want, we're there. I'm done. What do you got? How are you guys feeling? You guys done anything else?
I guess not. No.
No, I guess not.
All right. Well, you've been listening to another EU-tastic episode of Empire Radio. I'm Jeremiah.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Drew.
And may the Force be with you.
Always.